Yes, case number 109 on the calendar in the matter of Rodriguez versus Taylor. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Mr. Rodriguez, how do you know Miss Taylor?
She worked at the same office with my wife. She was a co-worker.
Of your wife's?
Yes.
How long had you known her before you sold her a car?
I never knew her. I just got the phone number to my wife. She told my wife she was interested in a car and I was selling one, so I gave her a call.
And what kind of car were you selling?
It's a Malibu Classic 79.
And why were you selling it?
Because I needed the money, because I was unemployed.
And what were you and your wife going to be driving?
Oh, I had another car. I had two other cars.
What other kind of cars did you have, Mr. Rodriguez?
I had another 78 Malibu and another 79 Malibu.
You like that car?
Yes, I like Malibu.
And this is what you want. You sold Miss Taylor the car for $2,000.
Yes.
And because you say you felt sorry for her because she was a single mother, you agreed to let her make payments on it. $500 down, and then she gave you another $100. So far she's paid $600 towards the car.
Yes.
And then, according to you, she let you know she didn't want the car and she wanted her money back. You're suing her for breach of contract. Yes. You want her to pay the rest of what she owes on the car, and you're suing her because you say she did damage to the car.
Yes, she did.
Because you repossessed the car.
Yes,
so now you have the car.
Yes.
And her $600.
No.
Where's her $600?
When she gave them to me, I was unemployed, and I had to pay people back and give my wife money.
Listen to me. I don't mean that... Mr. Rodriguez, I don't mean necessarily that you still have the $600 in your possession. You didn't give it back to her. So you have the car and her $600.
No. She gave me $600 down. Then she said that she didn't want it no more.
So did you give her the $600 back?
No.
You spent it.
I spent some of the money, and I offered her $200. I said, that's all I have now. But I didn't have the car. When she called me, she still had it.
I want to know if you gave her any of her money back that she kept.
No, she wouldn't let me give her
anything.
anything.
So then you have the car.
No, I don't have the car in my possession.
Who has the car?
I have it now, because I repossessed it after.
This had to be my 9th case of the day. I don't want you to say anything, Mr. Rodriguez. I just want you to listen to me and believe what I tell you.
Okay.
You currently have her $600 and the car that you sold her.
Okay, I do.
And you're suing her for the rest of the money, and because you say she did damage to the car. You got it?
Oh, I got it.
What's the Blue Book value of this car, Mr. Rodriguez?
I don't know.
Well, let's find out. 1979 Chevy Malibu. Do you think we could get that information,
Sure.
Officer Byrd? Thank you very much.
Can I say something? It all depends on how you fix the car. You can restore any car and make it look good and make it worth money. I had it nice.
Not according to her.
Okay.
Miss Taylor, on what date did you initially see this car?
On March 24th.
And you agreed to pay him $2,000 for the car? And when did you tell him that there were problems with the car?
March 25th, the next day.
What was wrong with it?
The blinkers weren't working, the speedometer, the roof was coming down, and also...
when you say the roof was coming down, what do you mean the roof
it
was
was tacked up, and I didn't realize it was tacked up.
Was it a convertible?
No.
She's talking about the upholstery.
Yeah, the upholstery was tacked up.
With what?
With thumbtacks.
This is the car that you restored, Mr. Rodriguez? Shh, shh. You tacked up the interior with thumbtacks?
No, look. The car, the interior is all red. You know, it has the... Okay, what happened was from the windows being open, it was starting to come out. So I did put some red ones in it, some little ones, the round ones. Not the long ones they use in school, in elementary. I mean, that's what she's trying to say. Trying to make it seem like. I had it red ones, you couldn't even see them. And that day when she got it, she's like, what's up with this? And I told her, but just, you know, it's coming down, just, you can fix it yourself, that's it. She never asked about blinkers, nothing.
Wait, what do you mean she didn't ask about blinkers? When you buy a car, you say your blinkers work? Is that what you're asking?
When I buy a car, I make sure I ask, hey, is there any malfunctions? Make sure the lights work, everything. The radio, whatever I need to know, you know? She didn't ask any questions. She just wanted a car.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Rodriguez?
Right now I'm unemployed, but I'm a machinist.
Take your hands off your hips. How long have you been unemployed?
For a few months.
So who supports you, your wife?
I just do side jobs or whatever I have to do.
What does that mean, you do side jobs? You say your wife works. She's a co-worker of hers, so if you don't work, then your wife supports you.
Well, she supports me.
You have children?
Yes, I do.
How many children do you have?
3.
So your wife supports you, she supports your 3 children, and she works full-time. And she takes care of the house.
No, I take care of the house.
I doubt that.
And the kids, everything.
Sure.
Can I say something?
Sure.
When I got there, I looked at the car. He had taken out the speakers. There's 2 holes in the back of the trunk, and he was inside the trunk trying to hold it up. He said he was going to fix that, and then he said that the gasket on the left side was fixed, but the right side was missing. He said he would fix it.
Miss Taylor, you're not much of a business person. What did Mr. Rodriguez say when you said, I want to return the car after one day?
He said, well, I don't have the money right now. And I was like,
Because he spent it.
Yeah. He said that he owed people, or he was going to put it in the bank, but then he told me that day I called him that he put it into his other car.
Into his other car. So, do we have any figure?
Nope.
Doesn't go back that far.
Don't go back that far.
Judge.
You know, you got an 87.
What does the 87 show?
It said $0.
So it says the 87 is worth nothing,
Pretty much. Unless it's in fantastic condition.
not kept together by thumbtacks.
Pretty much.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're buying a car that's 25 years old, and you're dumb enough to pay $2,000 for it. As far as I'm concerned, you deserve what you get.
And later today,
You should kiss the ground right where you're standing and say, I'm going to be smarter next time. The next time I wait 10 years to have a guy move in with me, I'm going to know him more than 2 weeks. And it's not going to be a recent parolee from state's prison.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Fernando Rodriguez claims Tracy Taylor owes for breach of contract and damages to a '79 Chevy Malibu. Tracy is countersuing for the return of $600.
Miss Taylor, what did he say to you about getting the money back to you?
He said that he's not working right now. He already put the money into his car and give him about a week. If he couldn't come up with it in a week, he'll borrow it from a relative or family.
That's what he told you. And how much after that did he come and pick up the car?
About 3 weeks later, because the end of that week I called him and he said that he barely got a job, so I'm thinking like at least a week or every 2 weeks he get paid. So I waited 2 more weeks, and then he said he lost his job or something.
But he did initially say to you when you called, he said, I don't have the money,
Yeah.
but give me some time and I'll get it to you. And then he took the car back.
I didn't know he took the car back.
How did you find out he took the car back?
Oh, because I got home and then I took a nap and then I went to take my mom to work and I looked and it wasn't there.
Mr. Rodriguez, your lawsuit is for breach of contract. You say that she made a contract with you and she didn't fulfill her obligations under the contract. Your lawsuit against her is dismissed. It's dismissed for the following reason, because I find that you agreed to take the car back and give her back her money. Ordinarily, Ms. Taylor, I couldn't help you because you buy a used car as is. If you're buying a car that's 25 years old and you're dumb enough to pay $2,000 for it, as far as I'm concerned, you deserve what you get. However, he's a slick character. He got $600 from you for this car. He should have been walking home, clicking his heels and saying, $600, it's worth less than zero, and I got $600 for it. So he should have been happy. Now he's got you $600 and he's got his car. Put your hand down. Ordinarily, in a court, in all probability, you would get nothing. However, I believe you when you say that Mr. Rodriguez agreed to take the car back when you called him the next day and said, listen, everything is falling apart in this car. I want the $600. I believe you when you say that he told you, I can't give it all back to you because I put some in my car, because that's what an idiot would do, who has 3 children and no job. They would take a piece of $600 and put it in their car and get woofers or tweeters or speakers, because he's got nothing else to do with his time but play with his cars. So I believe you when he promised to return your money, and he didn't do that. So his claim is dismissed. You get nothing, zero, except you have your car. So you can go find somebody else who might want to buy your car, Mr. Rodriguez, because on her counterclaim, she's getting back her $600.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's all.
Part of our students, you may step out.
Because of ignorant people and they're laughing, I couldn't even give my proof.
I'm just really happy that you know, even though I was kind of naive to the whole situation, that it's finally over with, and she did believe me.
I offered her $200 a day. She didn't want it. And she told me, no, I want the full.
He didn't offer $200 a day. He offered $200 when the police were there.
The way she is, she likes to work people.
As soon as I got in the car and hit my head and something fell down, I was like, no, it's not for my baby.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McCormick versus Havens. Step forward, please.
Sherry McCormick is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Jason Havens, for a series of unpaid loans. Sherry says she moved Jason in only weeks after his release from prison.
Miss McCormick, did you and Mr. Havens ever live together?
Yes, we did.
When?
From about October till March.
October of 2004 until March of 2005?
Yes, ma'am.
Had he been in prison before that?
Yes.
How long were you incarcerated, Mr. Havens?
4 years.
For what?
Burglary and robbery.
Is this the first time you were in jail?
Yes.
How did you meet?
At a bar.
How long had you been out of when you met Miss McCormick?
2 weeks.
Where had you been living?
I was staying with my father at the time being.
Where are you working now, Mr. Havens?
I just do side roof jobs, work under the table, doing roofing, construction.
You're not supposed to say in front of 10 million people, sir, including the IRS, that you're being paid under the table. I'm just suggesting that to you. I didn't ask you that question, whether you were paid under the table, so you don't necessarily, be smart, you don't necessarily have to volunteer that information. Do you understand? How much after you met him did he move in with you, Miss McCormick?
It was a few weeks. We had a first date a week later, and then it was a few weeks after that that he moved in.
And you live with your daughter?
Yes.
NS, you know what NS means? Not smart.
I know. I know.
Really not smart, because I assume that since Mr. Havens is so honest with me, he told you that he had been released from prison 2 weeks before, that he had been in prison for burglary and robbery.
Well, that wasn't the story that I heard in the beginning.
He wasn't in prison for working under the table.
No, he wasn't.
Okay, and you don't get 4 years for a first-time offense.
I don't know the court system that well, but...
All right, but you do watch television.
Yes.
That's what educates most people. Didn't educate you enough because you allowed him to move into your house with your daughter. Is this your daughter?
Yes, it is.
Miss McCormick. It's your claim that you made a series of loans to Mr. Havens.
Yes.
During the time that he was living there with you. Mr. Havens says, yes, you did give him money. He was getting back on his feet, and you were more than happy to help him to do that.
That wasn't the case. They were loans.
Let me hear about them, Miss McCormick. I'm going to have to make a judgment about that.
I believe the first one was he came home one night and he had a fat lip. He had been in a gambling game and lost $250. And I had heard some of the voice messages from these people who were after him. And I didn't want to see anything happen to him, so he asked to borrow the money. I, as a matter of fact, had to borrow $100 of it from my grandmother to give him.
When was this?
That was in October, early November.
Keep going.
During the period of time, he would come to me and ask me for $20 here, $10 there, ask me for money to go see his daughter, to do things with his daughter, and at one time he ended up at a party with his cousin with the money that I had loaned him to do something with his daughter.
And when was that?
Probably in November.
November. All righty, so let's see what we got. We've got someone that you met in a bar that moved in with you 2 weeks later, who had been released from prison after serving 4 years. During that same month, he comes home after a gambling debt leaves him bloodied, according to you. You have people calling and leaving voice messages, and those people are saying that they're going to cut him off at the knees unless he gives them this $250, whatever. So you borrow money from your grandmother to get him out of that fix, and then you continue to live with him. When you start giving him more money, 20 here, 10 there, and then some money to go and visit his daughter, and you find out that he ended up at a party with a friend and didn't use the money for the visit with his daughter. That's in November. Let's go to the next one.
I had gone to Florida, and he house sat for me. He asked for money while I was in Florida, and I left him money, and while I was in Florida, he ran out of money, so I had called my dad's girlfriend, and she took him over another 20. You know, all this was in promise that when he got his money from his loan from school that he would pay me back.
Is that right?
No, that's not right.
No. Don't believe a word of that, Miss McCormick. You've got to start using your brains. How many men have you had living in your house with your daughter in the last 10 years?
The only one.
Only him?
Yes.
You were certainly holding out, and you waited for some, and you got some bargain. Oh,
I'm not
you got
saying I
yourself
didn't make a big mistake.
the real pick of the litter. You bought a car from her, is that right?
Yes.
Did you give her any money down?
I gave her an $800 down payment and agreed to pay the rest of the $2,000 monthly.
She took the car back.
Yeah, before the first payment.
Did he give you $800 towards the car?
No, he did not.
How much did he give you?
He didn't give me anything.
She's not going to admit to it. I gave her $800. I gave her 50s and 100s because I got it out of my school loan check. That was the whole point of me getting a loan so I could get a car. And she was the perfect opportunity for me to get a car, so I got it from her.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
He made it a point to have his father mail me a check so he would have a receipt for the first payment. And if he gave me $800 supposedly, I would think he would have wanted a receipt for it also.
That was before I moved out, before she went crazy and tried to go to my friends' houses and try to find me everywhere, every night.
Which I
Ms.
did
McCormick,
not do.
he doesn't have a counterclaim for this $800. He just says, listen, I bought a car from her, I gave her some cash. She repossessed the car because I didn't finish paying, because I didn't pay for it.
The day
She just
before
didn't want me
it
to
was
have
even
it
due.
anymore. She
Yeah.
repossessed the car. So he doesn't have a counterclaim. I don't have to even believe that he gave you $800. All I have to believe is, from your perspective, is whether or not you advanced him this money with an expectation of being repaid. I don't believe any sane person who's 43 years old, who has a teenage daughter, who runs a house, first gives him $250, then without getting a penny back, gives him more money a couple of weeks later, and then a couple of months later, without getting any more money back, gives him more money and has a legitimate expectation of being repaid. I don't believe that you had a legitimate expectation of being repaid.
I did,
I
Your
think
Honor.
you made a big mistake, and the big mistake was letting him move in. The big mistake was not the few $100 that you gave him over the course of the months that he was living there. And you should kiss the ground right where you're standing that he left your house and left your house intact and left you intact and left your daughter intact, and say, I'm going to be smarter next time. The next time I wait 10 years to have a guy move in with me, I'm going to know him more than 2 weeks. And it's not going to be a recent parolee from state's prison. Your lawsuit is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Joshua Niemeyer and his wife Jennifer are suing their former friends, Chris Petrie and girlfriend Brandy Carpenter, for causing them to be evicted and for vandalizing their car. Chris and Brandy are countersuing, claiming Joshua punched Brandy in her pregnant stomach.
All rise. This is case number 156 on the calendar in the matter of Niemeyer versus Petrie Carpenter. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Niemeyer, these folks were friends of yours.
Were.
And then, sometime several months ago, according to your complaint, you had a falling out over $100.
Yeah.
And you claim as a result of this falling out that the defendants damaged your car, assaulted you, you want damages. The defendants say that you became an aggressor over this $100, and you, in fact, assaulted them, and they are counterclaiming. So first, why don't you tell me what happened on this day? Well, was it in April?
I went to a customer's house. I was running a side business.
What kind of business?
Computer work, building computers, setting up networks. I was having a problem with satellite, so I called Chris out. He went to our apartment and took my wife's car from there, left his wife there.
Okay, but these are details that I really don't think I need, because
Okay.
I've read your complaint, and your complaint says that you gave him $100 for his day's work in helping you.
Yes.
And he gave you the $100.
Yeah, he gave me the $100.
Go ahead.
His wife was asleep when we got back. She was pregnant, so I went to sleep on the couch.
Mr. Niemeyer,
Basically,
listen to me carefully, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Because I have other things to do, too.
I understand. Sorry.
You gave him the $100. According to you, they slept at your house.
Yes.
And the next morning, the $100 was missing. Is that right?
Right, my stuff had been rummaged through.
It's not true.
Yeah.
Shh. The $100 was missing. And they believed that either you or your wife took the $100.
Which we didn't.
So pick up from that point.
Okay. Basically, he woke up and somehow his stuff was scattered out through my house. It's like he had been through my house and looking for stuff to steal. or something. I don't understand it. I don't understand how stuff gets his stuff that was in his pockets when I went to bed is scattered out throughout my house, and he's looking in my car and everything.
I know how it
My
gets
MP3
scattered.
player was missing.
Listen to me.
My laptop was missing.
Listen to me. None of those things, Mr. Niemeyer, are contained. Listen to me. Are contained in your complaint that your things were missing. So I don't want to hear it. He woke up, his $100 is missing. He asks you about it. Your wife says, I'll look for it. They leave. Sometime later that day, they either came or called. Which was it?
Well, early when they were leaving, we got in big arguments. She was saying, I'm going to kick your butt.
Oh, you mean there was a dispute before they left in the morning?
Before they even left. They were accusing me of stealing. You know, it's like I just paid him $100. And,
yeah, why would you take it back if you just paid him? That's ridiculous.
Yes, I don't understand it. So he called back later and he said, hey, y'all, he had Brandy call back later and talk to Jennifer. She said
Just
no.
a second.
Okay.
His wife called back and spoke to you?
Yes, ma'am.
What did she say to you and what did you say to her?
She told me that I needed to have my husband give her man back the $100.
And what did you say to her?
I told her that I would talk to him, but it was between them. I knew that my husband hadn't taken the money. We looked all over the house. Chris had lost it.
Did they come back to the house?
Yes, they did.
What time?
10:30
10:30.
p.m.
Had they called first to tell you that they were coming?
Basically, at that point, Chris had called me back and said, what's your gate code?
Gate code?
Yeah, it's getting our apartments. I said, Chris, you just need to turn around and leave. You know, I don't want to get kicked out of my apartment. Then, at that moment, I knew, knowing Chris for so long, I needed to go out there and look. Well, I went out there and looked. He had driven around in the exit gate when somebody had left.
So he was in your apartment complex?
Yes, ma'am. So at that point, I ran back upstairs. I called Craig and said, look, dude, I don't know what's going on.
Why did you call Craig?
Huh? Well, I didn't know what to do. You know,
Who's Craig?
Huh? This, my witness.
Well, I know, I see Craig sitting over there.
I
mean, what is he?
He's just a neighbor, basically.
He lives in the same complex?
Yes, I just wanted somebody to be able to see what was going on.
You didn't call the police?
At that moment, we thought we could talk things out and that things wouldn't escalate to that point. I went outside and tried to talk to them.
What did you say to them?
Brandy was really polite to me. I told her that if they were coming to start stuff, they couldn't do it there. We have 2 children, we have a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old that don't need to be around that. And they didn't leave when I asked them to leave.
And?
At that moment, I went down there to talk to Chris. By the time I got out there and I noticed that it was just a screaming and holler match, I started to come back. Well, at that point, Chris started pushing me. Give me my money, or I'm going to punch your face in.
Never pushed you.
It's no police report.
He pushed me all the way
Let
back
me
up
ask
to
you
my
this
apartment.
question.
Excuse me, Judge.
And shh. Chris, you weren't the only 4 people in the house.
They're 2
They're
kids.
2 kids.
Right. There were 2 toddlers, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, would you give me a reason why this friend of yours, who you've known since you were children, who called you to come for a day's work, who took out the money to pay you, would then, while you were sleeping, rummage through your things and steal the $100 that he had just given you? It doesn't make sense. Now, is it possible that one of the 2 toddlers was going around the house and while you were all sleeping and rummaging through your stuff and his stuff and sort of scattered everything all over the place? Is that possible?
It's possible.
And then the money would have been gone. Is that possible?
She would have found it when she was cleaning.
Not necessarily. What if the toddler took your $100 and flushed it down the toilet? Would she have found it?
No.
Now, tell me in your own words, what happened when they came back at 10:30 at night?
Well, he started pushing me, and so I walked upstairs. I was trying to go back in the house. I was going to get Jennifer to call the police. At that moment, I turned around, and he's still right there, and he's trying to get in my house. So I pushed him back out of my front doorstep, because I wasn't going to let him in my house. At that moment, Brandy came walking upstairs.
You pushed by me
This
and
is
hit me in the
Brandy.
stomach
Anyway,
when I was pregnant.
when I pushed,
Don't speak.
when I pushed Chris back, pushed him like that to get him out of my doorstep, at that moment, Chris said, "You hit me." Turned around and swung. He hit me across the side of my head. Brandy came over the top of him, and their 3rd little guy, whoever he was, I don't know who he was, came running upstairs, and they all 3 commenced to hit me on my balcony. At that moment, I slid out, and Jennifer comes running out.
I heard noises. I came outside. All 3 of them were on top of him. My first thought was get Brandy off. She's 7 months pregnant, and I even told her, I said, look, you want to beat him up? Beat him up. Wait till you're done being pregnant.
I said, that's between y'all, but not
After
when
he
you're
hit me in
pregnant.
the stomach, I was defending myself.
Sure, she was
Listen
on
to
top
me.
of him.
Listen to me. Big mouth. Big stupid mouth. When you're 7 months pregnant, you don't go back to a house where there has been an altercation in the morning when you know it's very possible that there's going to be another altercation. You stay home. You get it? And if you put yourself in the middle of a fight and then say, oh, don't touch me, I'm 7 months pregnant. If you're 7 months pregnant, you use your brains if you can find them and stay home.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Chris brings his fist up and punches Josh.
He had hit her in the stomach and she's pregnant.
Got in my face and I pushed his face back out of mine.
You and your wife were having a very bad day, period.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joshua and Jennifer Niemeyer claim former friends Chris Petrie and girlfriend Brandy Carpenter caused them to be evicted and broke the rear window of their car. The Niemeyers claim the incident started over a missing $100.
Come on, let's go.
At the point when I pulled Brandy off, the other guy had gotten off too, and it was just Chris and Josh, and they ran down the stairs fighting. And Josh yelled at me, just go grab $100, give him $100, and make him leave. So I went, got the $100, went to hand it to Chris. Chris said, he's going to hand it to me. So I handed the money to Josh. Josh hands the money to Chris.
So he said, he's going to hand
Yes.
it to me. Another idiot. Yeah, go ahead.
So Josh hands the money to Chris. As he's handing the money to Chris, I'm standing there, and Chris brings his fist up and punches Josh, and then says, don't hit me. Josh at never one point hit him. He was handing him $100.
Then what happened?
I lost it. I threw the money at him in his face and I was like, Jennifer, I gotta get out of here. You know, I'm on probation. I'm not trying, I've straightened my life
For
out.
what?
Possession
Excuse me?
of a controlled substance.
Yes, I'm on probation. I've straightened my life out. You know, I just need to get out of here.
So he left.
So you went to leave. Now, when he went to leave in his car, you chased him, according to your answer. Now he's leaving.
To get the license plate number, so 'cause she was running down to call the police because he had hit her in the stomach and she's pregnant. I never touched her.
What? Let me ask you this question.
He just came out swinging and hit her in the stomach.
Listen to me. Why were you there at 10:30 at night?
To talk to him about the money. 'Cause
No, you went to his house to confront him about the money. And you had already had an altercation with him in the morning. And if you were going to go over there to have a confrontation with him, why did you go over there angry, which you were, and
I wasn't angry when I went.
Oh, yes, you were, sir. That's why you went there. And who did you bring with you?
I brought her with me.
Who else?
And my witness,
You brought a friend with you. Why did you bring the friend with you?
because I was taking him home because we were out together.
Out where?
Ma'am,
Out where?
Out at her brother's house.
Doing what?
See my nephew?
Yeah.
You know, I don't believe anything that you tell me. I think you're a troublemaker. And not a very smart troublemaker, because for somebody who's going to have a baby, you have to be a little more protective of an innocent than placing yourself in a situation that you know is potentially trouble. You understand each other?
Yes.
Good. You did, sir, a very foolish thing. Not only did you go back for a little more trouble and bring a friend with you,
He just happened to be in the car with us.
he got out of the car, didn't he?
When we first pulled up and I went to talk to Josh, he stayed in the vehicle.
Chris, is there a gate at their complex?
Yes.
Was the gate open when you got there?
The gate is usually open. The gate.
No, I didn't ask you if it's... Listen, you follow me.
Okay.
I didn't ask you whether the gate is usually open. I said, was the gate open on the evening of the 25th of April when you got there?
Yes.
Obviously not.
No. You're fibbing to me.
Do you have
You're
phone
fibbing.
records?
Just a second. You're fibbing to me.
Okay. The gate was open.
The front gate was not open.
You can believe what you want. I mean,
Okay, so after you ran out to your car and Chris followed you out to your car, I want you to describe what happened.
I know the way Chris is and what he...
Don't tell me what you know.
Okay.
Just tell me what happened.
I turned around and looked, and I saw Brandy and the other guy. They were going back to their car. I didn't see Chris at that moment, and so I had put the car in reverse, had just let off the brake, and all of a sudden I hear, thunk, hit and run. I turned around and flipped him off.
He jumped on his windshield. and then yelled, hit and run, got
Did
up.
the police report that he hit him?
What did I tell you? What did I tell you?
Anyway, at that moment, I'm so fed up with all this crap that's going on. I didn't let him in the apartments. I told him to go away. I just, turned around, flipped him off, and said, Chris, whatever. I know your games. And at that moment, Chris is standing in front of my car. I let off the brake, not with the gas on, but where the car just slowly rolls to push him out of the way. Because, I mean,
Did you
all they
ultimately
were
leave?
there, all they were there.
Sir, listen to me carefully. Did you ultimately leave?
After he had jumped through my windshield, yes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joshua and Jennifer Niemeyer say former friends Chris Petrie and Brandy Carpenter owe for causing them to be evicted and for vandalizing their vehicle.
Would you step up, sir, please? Step up. Tell me your name.
My name's Craig Majors.
Mr. Majors, take your hands out of your pockets.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you a witness to any of this?
What I saw is very little, actually. I mean, whenever I was coming back from getting laundry, all I heard was a thump and some screaming.
So you didn't see anything?
Oh, yeah, I saw. Yes,
well, then
I did.
I want you to tell me what you saw, sir.
Okay, what I saw was him backing away from his car and some yelling going on.
And?
Well, Josh tried to proceed forward, and whenever he did so, it kind of looks like he did just a back dive or a back buster on his window. And I didn't see if it broke the window or anything, but I did hear the loud, crash. Not actually broken glass, but maybe the hood.
Okay, good. And that's
all
all
I
you
could
saw?
see is him run and jump on the front of his car, and
That's
that was
what you
it.
saw.
He did not get hit like somebody getting hit at 50 miles an hour.
Good. Have a seat.
Thank you.
Now, you have a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
We actually have 3. They were really
Can I see
busy
it,
that
please?
weekend, and these are all 3 from the same weekend, different occurrences.
One of those is right before us.
Who's Tony? Who's Tony?
I believe that
was right before our house.
that was at a gas station. She assaulted him.
She assaulted another
Do you
guy.
know who Tony Gonzalez is, madam?
Yes.
So how come you didn't answer me?
Well, I didn't know the guy's name.
Well, now I'm telling you, you were arrested with regard to an incident.
I was never arrested.
On 425, well, this says arrested person, information number 1. Date arrested, 42504. Person arrested, Brandy, that's you?
Yes, but I was
Okay.
never arrested.
And the complainant was one Tony Gonzalez. Now tell me about that. That's on the same date as this incident.
Right. We were at a gas station, and he almost hit my car, and whenever he was pulling in the other side, I was parked this way, he was pulling in on the other side of the pump. And I looked at him like, don't hit my car, and he made comments of me being a white, and da-da-da-da, whatever, and we exchanged words. Well, I got out of the car, and he got in my face, and I pushed his face back out of mine.
What part are you forgetting?
I don't want to hear you when I'm not speaking to you.
Yes, ma'am.
And the cops came.
This is the same date as this incident, is that right? April 25th.
Yes. It was way later.
That happened
So
in-
after the police were involved with this other assault with regard to Tony Gonzalez, who you put your hands on.
Yes.
While you were 7 months pregnant. Then you and your husband went back to their house.
Not directly after, but yes, later on that evening.
Later on that evening.
Yes.
Oh, you must have had a really good day on April 25th.
There's also one.
I didn't ask you the question. Okay. The gas station attendant in this incident, Brandy, says, and she doesn't know you, and she doesn't know the victim. This independent witness says that she observed you being the instigator in the incident and stated that she saw you cursing and slapping Mr. Gonzalez.
I never slapped. I pushed him back, his face out of mine, yes.
You told the police that you pushed him in the face.
Yes.
That's not a slap. You pushed him in the face. Interesting girl. You're an interesting girl. All right. And then I have this, and the only one I'm interested in is the independent witness who lives in the complex, who says that you ran out after the car and you were screaming at him, "Give me my blank money or I'll smash you in the face." That's just from somebody who didn't even want to be involved.
If you read
Who's
the
listening out
paragraph
window.
above it, please read the paragraph above it, where it's a witness that has no relation to anybody who said that she was walking to her car in the parking lot when she saw suspect 1 hit complainant.
Oh, I believe that he
with
hit you.
confiscated vehicle.
I believe that he hit you.
Yes.
I believe that he hit you. I believe it's your fault. When you look for trouble, you're going to find it.
I wasn't looking for trouble.
Oh,
I went
going
over
over
there
there
to
at 10:30 at night to a home where there are 2 toddler children is looking for trouble. Earlier that day, you had been in another altercation with them. So you and your wife were having a very bad day, period. Period. And if there was an altercation at his front door and he was trying to leave, which he was, to get away from the police, to get away from you, but he was trying to get away because you say he ran to his car and I followed him. And you told me that you went there just for the purpose of getting his license plate. That's what you swore to about 15 minutes ago, but that's not true because you've known him for a very long time. He's not going to disappear. He's got a wife and 2 children. So your counterclaim is dismissed. If you got injured that day in his car, too bad. And if she got a bellyache in the car because she was there, because he hit her, that's her problem. She and her 7-month fetus should have been home in bed at 10:30 at night. Now, let's get to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Your car was damaged?
Yes.
How much?
We have a receipt right here for...
180 for the windshield, and then it was $462 to get out of impound.
Okay, I believe that they're responsible for that. I believe that, but for the fact that they came to your house at 10:30 at night looking for trouble, this whole unfortunate incident wouldn't have happened. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $642. That's all.
Janet Dady is suing her ex-boyfriend, used car salesman Jimmy Dickinson, for loans and a cell phone. Jimmy is countersuing for commission money.
Now, this is case number 65 on the calendar in the matter of Dady versus Dickinson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat.
Miss Dady, where did you meet Mr. Dickinson?
At a club.
When?
Around Thanksgiving time of 2000.
When did 2 of you start to date?
Shortly thereafter.
Did you ever live together?
Yes.
When?
That's a lie, you know. She wanted me to live with her.
When?
He lived with me the first time he moved in. I had had a really bad truck accident. I was in a cast, had 3 pins in my right wrist. So he moved in with me to help me, well, help take care of me.
When?
In January of 2000.
No, that was 2001.
Excuse me, 2001, he's correct.
For about 3 weeks.
That's not living with you, that's staying with you to help you.
Correct.
Did you ever live together in an apartment that you shared where you paid joint rent?
We lived together, correct, but I was
never
always...
on the lease with her, you know.
But Mr. Dickinson, listen to me, sir.
She's lying.
Mr. Dickinson, I'm going to say this one more time, sir. I ask questions, you answer questions. If you choose to talk to each other and shout at each other, then you can do that outside. Inside, I run a very orderly, organized place. You got it?
Got it.
Good. Got what question I asked? Remember, such a lecture. You got my question. I can always backtrack. Okay. 2001, in January of 2001, he stayed with you for 3 weeks. Did you ever share an apartment together, even if you paid the rent?
Excuse me, he didn't live with me for 3 weeks. It was approximately 3 to 4 months. It was about 3 weeks after we had met that he moved in.
Okay, so he was helping you out for 3 or 4 months.
Correct. And all of his belongings were there, I mean clothing-wise.
Okay, then he moved out.
I asked
3 or
him
4
to.
months, you asked him to move out.
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you ask him to move out?
Well, I came home from a business trip to find a cute little blonde sitting on my couch. Which...
Okay, so that was in 2001.
Yes, ma'am.
And he moved out, but that didn't end the relationship because according to your complaint, the first loan you made to him was in 2003.
No, ma'am. The first loan that I made to him was in April of 2001, which was when he had asked me to lend him $440.
Miss Dady, give me the dates of the loans that you claim Mr. Dickinson made.
Okay, the first one was to pay...
2001, $400. To pay for what?
$440 to pay probation fees so he wouldn't have to go to jail the next morning.
Okay. What's next?
Then we broke up, and then he called me again 2 years later. Said that he had been born again, he'd done his probation, he had gone to rehab. In 2004 is when I loaned him the $900. He was having to go to work about 30 miles from our residence, and he was driving my BMW, and I didn't want him driving it any longer, so he had said that he had this car that he needed to get fixed, so could I give him the $900 to get it fixed, which I agreed upon.
Okay, what's next?
Then about 3 weeks later, he had gone for an interview at a pretty prestigious dealership and supposedly supposed to be offered a general manager job which was supposed to be paying him netting $10,000 to $12,000 a month. Well, he wanted to have nice clothes and he wanted to have a nice car. And besides that, he didn't go and pick the Volvo up. Well, about 2 weeks later.
What do you mean he didn't go pick the Volvo up? I don't understand.
Because it wasn't fixed, but I was unaware of that. So
you gave him $900 to fix the car and he never went and got the car?
Correct. So I went to the place that he had left it at and actually talked to the owner. And the owner told me that he had in fact, called his sister and left several messages in Galveston.
But he never went to pick up the car.
Correct.
So he had you $900 and they had his old car.
Exactly.
Got it. So then he needed nice clothes.
He needed some nice clothes and then a nice car. So it was our agreement that he was going to pay for the clothes. I was going to give him $1,800 for a down payment on a Camry.
So did you do that?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
So you gave him $1,800?
Yes, I did.
When was that?
The $900 was on 129 and the $1,800 was on 210.
What's next?
Then on Valentine's Day, he had been kind of whining about needing a cell phone because he has to make all these business calls and everything.
Whatever. You got him a cell phone?
Yes, ma'am. Our agreement was that I pay for the phone as a gift to him, and then he's going to pay the deposit and then be responsible for the monthly bills.
Well, so you were buying him that as a gift?
Yes, ma'am, and I'm not suing for that. But the $125 deposit, which I had to pay that day in order to get the phone activated, I paid.
What else?
Then he just did not pay the cell phone bills. What had actually happened...
So just a minute, so they didn't pay the cell phone bills, they turned off the cell phone, and what happened? You lost your deposit?
No, actually what ended up happening is I had the phone activated on the 15th of February.
Had it turned off on the 17th.
I had it turned off on the 26th.
You turned it off, so what happened?
Yes, ma'am. He somehow called Sprint and had the phone turned back on because I understood he was making drug calls. And I know nothing about any of that. I've never even seen one, let alone done one.
I don't know what else you want with regard to the cell phone. Just tell me what you're suing for with regard to the cell phone.
The two monthly bills, the February and the March bill, that he's responsible for.
Well, why is it on your bill?
It's not. He has a separate billing.
So? That
indicates his phone. Our agreement is that he was going to be responsible for the monthly bills.
Just a second. He was going to be responsible, but you put it on your account.
Correct.
It's amazing to me. I can understand it when somebody is, 21 years old and stupid, but you're a grown woman.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Mr. Dickerson, now I'll hear you, sir. She wants to hold all this money from you.
Okay, Your Honor, all this is she wanted me to stay there.
Listen to me. Just start with the probation fees.
She gave me the money for the probation fees. I went down and paid, came back. A couple of months later, I decided to move out on my own because I wasn't ready for that type of relationship, and she never did understand that. She would always try to buy me and control me with that way. That's why she turned off the cell phone 3 days later after she got me.
Don't interrupt him.
That's why she turned off.
Let's get to the $900 she gave you to fix you a Volvo.
And I bought the Volvo.
You bought the Volvo?
Yes, I did.
Well, I understand that, but then it broke down, and you said you needed to have it fixed.
The car's still running. No. My cousin's still using it.
No. Don't interrupt. I'm sorry. But then she gave you another $1,800 for a Camry.
Now, think about this, Your Honor.
No. I'm just asking you.
Okay.
What was the $1,800 for?
Because she wanted me to look good.
Drugs.
Shh. Miss...
I'm sorry.
Don't say you're sorry again, because I'm going to throw you out.
If I owed you all this money, why would you continue to loan me money if I owed you?
You're absolutely right, Mr. Dickerson. That's the only smart thing you just said to me. That's my question. Why would an intelligent, mature woman keep giving you money when starting in 2001 you never paid her a dime back, and she just kept giving you money and giving you money and giving you money? And I have to wonder whether there was ever a legitimate expectation that you were going to get any of this money back.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do you think that she's bothering you?
Yes.
And later today...
They wouldn't let me do traffic school if you already did it in the last 18 months.
And you had done it in the last 18 months?
Yeah.
Because you had another speeding ticket?
No, because I had my accident.
Sounds to me like you're an accident looking to happen.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Dady says ex-boyfriend Jimmy Dickerson owes for 2 car loans and a cell phone. Jimmy says Janet was trying to control him with money.
It would seem to me that a woman like you would know after 4 years that he's a taker. And any money that you give to him is like throwing money down the sewer. you're never going to get it back.
May I say something?
Sure.
Judge Judy, when we were only together, and he gave me the 440, then we broke up. I told him to leave because of his behavior and because he never ever went to work.
Miss Dady, you're telling me that he never worked, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
That he couldn't hold a job, a continuous job, probably because he had a drug problem?
Yes, ma'am.
You picked him.
2 years later, after he had convinced me that he had in fact changed, I thought I would give him a second chance.
You wanted to give him a second chance. So within the first month, he needs $900. Just think of what you did. You gave him $900 because the goodness of you say he's clean, he's sober, he's everything else, right? But to give him $900 so we can get his car out of the shop. And then you don't see the car. And then according to you, you went down to the shop and they said he never came to pick it up. So he's got you $900. What do? You give him another $1,800.
The only reason I gave him the additional $1,800, Your Honor, is because he had gone to an interview. He was supposedly supposed to be hired as the new used car manager, netting $10,000 to $12,000
and who told you that?
A month. Him.
I rest, if I were a lawyer, I would say I rest my case. Miss Dady, I hate it when women are taken advantage of. But I hate it worse when women act stupid and allow themselves to be taken advantage of. Now let me hear about your counterclaim in 30 seconds or less.
The reason I have so many jobs, Your Honor, because she would show up on my job at any time doing donuts in the parking lot, demanding to see me.
I don't want to hear you.
I don't know how she finds out where I work.
Let me tell you something, sir. You think that she's bothering you?
Yes.
You think you took advantage of her?
No.
When you take money from somebody, and you took money from her because, according to you, she wanted to keep you around, is that right?
Basically, yeah.
Just a second. You think she wanted to keep you around because she legitimately cared for you?
Yes.
And you cared for her or not?
No.
So you took her money. You knew that you didn't care for her the same way. Does that make you a good person or a bad person?
A bad person.
Right! Well, that's another smart thing that you said, Mr. Dickerson.
This is the...
And let me tell you something else, Mr. Dickerson. Bad people, when they come into court, you don't come into court and cry, she's stalking me, she's harassing me. Well, maybe she just got fed up with you. She got fed up with being taken. Not nice. Did you file a police report,
no.
Mr. Dickerson?
No, ma'am.
So it evidently didn't bother you that much, sir, that she was coming and doing donuts with her car in the parking lot.
I didn't want to hurt her.
Oh, that's good. So why would you want to hurt her now?
I don't want to hurt her now.
Good. Your counterclaim's dismissed. Thank you very much. Smarten up, Miss Dady.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's just sore because she gave me the money.
He's a user.
And she didn't get the return on it that she thought she would.
And he's a loser.
I didn't want to be with you.
I'm a survivor.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kirkland versus Polson. Step forward, please.
Linda Kirkland is suing her daughter, 19-year-old Laura Polson, for the balance on a car. Laura says her mother agreed to make payments while she was going through a divorce.
Miss Kirkland, this is your daughter. What's your first name?
Laura.
Your complaint says that you purchased a car for her with the understanding that she would make the payments on the car.
Correct.
But then you stopped making payments on the car. The car was, in fact, totaled, and your mother is out in excess of $5,000. That we agree on. Is that right? So what I'd like you to do is tell me what your defense is.
Well, the only reason why I stopped making payments is because I fell into financial. I got divorced. I had to move back home. She said I could move back home with her. So I moved back in with her, and she said that until I got a job and I got back stable on my feet, that I wouldn't have to pay her the monthly payments on the car, that it would be okay. She would help me out as my mom, she would help me out.
Well, that was nice of her.
Right.
So you moved home, and you were how old?
19.
And what were you doing?
Well, I didn't get a job until my 19th birthday, and I moved home in September.
When did you get a job?
In October.
Well, that's a month.
Right.
Were you paying rent?
No.
So whatever money you were earning, you had for yourself.
Right. Well, I had accumulated a lot of bills while I was married, and he wasn't helping me pay them.
Like what?
Well, there's 3 credit card bills, our wedding rings we were still paying off, a watch that he had bought, and we had also a second car. And in November...
Who was driving the second car?
He kept it when I left him in September. He wouldn't release the car to me. It wasn't in my name, it was in his name and my mother's name. So the cops wouldn't release it to me.
Well, if they would release it to your mother.
Right. But she just said it would just be better if I took the Honda and he took the Expedition and he would pay for that. And I would pay her for the Honda once I got more stable.
Well, now you're getting stable. So what happened?
Well, in October I got a job, and she said I still don't have to pay her. I could wait a couple more months until at least some of my bills were close to getting paid off.
What?
Well, I didn't actually let her not pay the car payment for a few months to let her get caught up on bills, but she had pretty much destroyed the car, and I let her not pay it so she could build up money for the deductibles for all of the damage that was done to the car.
What kind of damage did you do to the car?
She got assaulted before she got married. The guy came back and did more damage to the vehicle, so there were 2 claims there. And then Good Samaritan took a friend home from a party in the middle of the night and caused an accident. And so the car was pretty messed up. So I let her...
You left that all out?
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're in December. What happens in December, Ms. Paulson?
Well, in November, Jeremy had been being late on the other car payments, so my mom took it back from him and let me drive that, and I was making payments on that because we have a loan on that, so she said it'd be better to pay for that instead of getting it repossessed, and you just wait on the Honda a little bit more until you can afford both.
So how many payments did you make on Jeremy's car?
I think I paid on it November and December.
What do you mean you think?
I'm not real sure.
How many car payments did you
I think
make?
1.
Where is that car now?
Her husband has it.
He caught up on the payments, or
He is caught up on the payments. She pretty much abandoned it on January 1st. We got into a big fight. She took off in the Honda. Well, she didn't take off in the Honda. The police let someone come and take her in the Honda because her license had been suspended.
What?
I had got a speeding ticket.
And?
And they just sent me a notice that said that I had to pay until, or else my license would get suspended. So I sent the money in, and it still got suspended.
So what did you do about it?
Well, I was going to do traffic school, but they wouldn't let me do traffic school if you already did it in the last 18 months.
And you had done it in the last 18 months?
Yeah.
Because you had another speeding ticket?
No, because I had my accident. She had told you about.
Sounds to me like you're an accident looking to happen. So far, I haven't heard a legitimate reason why you don't owe your mother this money.
Well, she had told me that I could wait until I was financially back on my feet. And I was paying for the Expedition, and I had went on a trip with my friends in December, and I guess she was mad because she didn't give me permission to go. So she was upset about it, and when I came back, I came back on January 1st, and when I woke up in the morning, there was steering wheel locks on both cars. So I walked to my friend's house, and they drove me over there, back to my mom's house, and I had brought in the police there to release the Honda to me because it's in my name.
There's no such word as brought in.
That's brought.
Keep going.
And the cops came and they told her she had to release the Honda to me. And 2 days later, my friend was in it and he took off in it without my permission whatsoever. I had told him numerous times that he was not to even start my car.
And?
And he crashed into a house and it was totaled.
Who do you live with now?
I live with my boyfriend.
Now we have a boyfriend. So you have a boyfriend and a husband. Is that right?
Well, I'm separated, legally separated, and I'm waiting.
You're separated in court? A court issued an order of separation?
No.
Well, then you're not legally separated.
Well, I'm separated, but I have to go through the divorce. I did all my paperwork.
Listen to me. You're living with your boyfriend. What does he do for a living?
He's a mechanic.
You had to look up at the sky to figure out what he did? What does he do for a living?
He's a mechanic.
And what do you do?
I'm a secretary.
So why haven't you started to pay your mother back for the car?
I just got my job on Monday.
What were you doing before that?
I haven't been working.
Why not?
I lost my job in December, and I've been looking for work.
Get a job as a packer in a grocery store. What are you doing, sitting home, doing nothing?
Well, I've been looking for a job. No one's called me back.
I'm looking for a job. I'm looking for a job. What can I tell you? What do you still owe?
$6,165.52.
You understand that the limit court can order is $5,000 judgment, is that right?
I understand that.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Disc jockey Alan Herzig is suing former clients Bonnie and Paul Moorer for putting a stop payment on his fee. Bonnie is countersuing, claiming Alan slandered her.
Come to order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, all rise. Miss.
Your Honor, this is case number 129 on the calendar in the matter of Herzig versus Mora. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Everybody have seats.
Mr. Herzig, you were retained by Mr. and Mrs. Mora, according to your complaint, to be the DJ at their son's bar mitzvah.
Correct.
They gave you a $500 deposit.
Correct.
The balance due of $650. According to your complaint, you went to the bar mitzvah, you performed your service, the Moras gave you a check for $650.
Correct.
And then they stopped payment on the check.
Yes, ma'am.
You want your money.
Yes.
Mr. and Mrs. Mora say that your services were not up to standard, that they feel as if they didn't get what they had contracted for, that you ruined their son's bar mitzvah. In addition to ruining their son's bar mitzvah, you slandered and defamed them by writing letters to the temple, by walking around with placards outside. I don't know what you said. And they're suing you for a refund of their $500 deposit, as well as another $4,500 for their aggravation.
Correct.
Sure. Where was the bar mitzvah?
Desert Shores Community Center, the same location that my young witness had his bar mitzvah.
Okay. And how many people did you have at the bar mitzvah?
Approximately 100.
When did you retain Mr. Herzig?
Approximately 2 months before, 2 to 3 months before the event.
Do you have the contract?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd
It
like to
was
see it.
actually December 16th, 2004.
And when was the bar mitzvah?
January 30th, 2005.
Okay. Would you show this to Mr. and Mrs. Moore and ask them whether they recognize signature on that and whose signature it was on the contract?
Yep, I have the same one in my...
Yes.
Okay, so that's the contract?
Yes.
All right. And you showed up?
Absolutely. Ready to do a job.
Showed up, and how many hours were you there?
I arrived at 4 o'clock p.m. Set up time from 4 o'clock to 5:30. At 5:30, start music.
And when did you finish?
9:30.
Between 5:30 and 9:30, did anyone approach you and indicate that they were dissatisfied with what was going on?
Ms. Moore came up and said, I'm unhappy the music being played right now. It was during the dinner time. And I said, no problem, we'll promptly change it, which we did.
So other than that one time that Mrs. Moore came up to you during the course of the evening, did either of them come up and say that there was anything wrong with what you were doing?
Later on at about 8:40, maybe 9 o'clock, Ms. Moore came up and asked, she had given me originally that evening 4 additional notes to perform and to say, as I remember, something about one of them being guest had graduated from college. But there were a couple, how about those announcements? And I said, we've already made the announcements. I didn't know if she was in the room.
Can I add to that?
I'm going to get to you in a second. Okay. When did you get your check for $650?
After we put the equipment back into the van, we sat down at the table with Ms. Moore and we requested our check and we started just kibitzing a little about the evening and that was it.
She gave you the check?
Yes, ma'am. Wrote the check right then and there.
Did she say at that point anything to you about your service that evening?
Word zero, which meant...
Okay. Don't tell me what he's going to tell me.
Okay.
You say word zero.
Word zero.
Okay, who's going to speak?
I'd like to say.
Okay.
Okay. When I originally hired Alan to be my DJ, I had interviewed a few DJs. And one mentioned that he was going to have a disco ball for lighting, which, you know, I would like for my son to have something special. And he said, oh, that's outdated. I have sophisticating lighting. I have speakers with that blink, and I have, you know, and I was excited because I thought, wow, I'm going to have that. That was not at the party. That's what initially, after I watched the tape of the bar mitzvah, or it was even before then, I said to my husband, was there lighting? And there was no lighting. The montage that he made for me that he was professionally supposed to do.
I don't know what, could you stop hitting the table?
I'm sorry.
The table.
The montage of?
A video montage that he supplied a projection screen that he told me he was going to add magic to. I scanned all the pictures at home on my computer and handed him a disc. He just added music to it, and he told me he was going to spin the pictures and do his magic to my pictures. And I have a copy of that here that I'd like you to see, that within the first 4 pictures there was a slag in between the pictures. As a professional, after making a tape of this sort, he should have viewed it before he showed it to my guests. There was a slag and everybody thought the tape was over after the first 4 pictures.
The sound system was inadequate. We had music cues for people as they were to come out and be introduced that never went off. We didn't know he was going to have a 12-year-old child as his DJ, training him at our bar mitzvah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
He said he would bring an assistant. We didn't know it would be a young child that he would be given on-the-job training during our affair.
He trained his son throughout the... I have it on tape also.
That was quite embarrassing for us, and our guests couldn't believe it. We had certain music that he left at home.
My father was an entertainer who had passed, and I wanted my family to hear my father's music while we were eating. I brought the tape. He didn't even bring it to the bar mitzvah. He had to call his wife to bring the tape to the bar mitzvah.
Did she bring it?
She brought it, but it was stressful to me.
Now you've told me the story.
Some of it.
Shh. Now you've told me the story, and now I'd like to know why you gave him a check for $650 at the end of the evening.
My husband wrote
First of all, he's not telling the truth. I'm the one that gave him the check, not my wife.
I don't care who gave him the check. You gave him the check.
He came over. He said, it's time to settle up. We still had guests around. I didn't want to cause a scene. It was a very big day, a lot of excitement. Took out my checkbook. I wrote him the check just to get it over with. And we went home and discussed it, and we got several complaints from guests. People called us, they emailed us, they told us the next day or two how awful things were.
I want to see those emails. Just a second, listen to me very carefully, Mr. Mora. I want to see the emails from your guests telling you how awful the bar mitzvah was.
I have.
Okay.
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
You have those letters?
Those are some letters, but I want her to read this.
I want to see a letter. I just want to see an email. Oh, this is terrible. This is not what I want. This is not what I want. And this is not what I want. And this is not what I want. Did you understand English? English is, I want to see emails that your guests sent to you the day after the bar mitzvah telling you how horrible the bar mitzvah was. These are letters. These are letters 6 months later that you solicited from people saying, I was present at the Mora bar mitzvah and would like to make some comments about what I observed.
Well, she just printed it out that day.
Listen to me, madam. On your best day, you're not as smart as I am on my worst day.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Tell me one Bubba Mice, I find everything else that you say suspect. So that's a grandma story.
Oh, I know the Bubba Mice.
That's a Bubba Mice, a grandma story. It means it's an untruth.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alan Herzig says former client Bonnie Moore owes for his DJ services. Bonnie claims Alan did a poor job. She is countersuing for defamation of character.
What I want to see is a guest at a bar mitzvah, because I've been to more bar mitzvahs in my day than you have, and I've made more. I have never had a guest that wrote me a letter or sent me an email telling me how horrible the function was because of the DJ. So when you said to me, I got emails the next day telling me how horrible the function was,
I didn't say
that's not true. That's not true. No guest at a Jewish bar mitzvah tells their host and hostess what a terrible time they had. Now, solicited, you can get letters from people telling you that they thought that the DJ was awful. Call the guest and say, I'm going to court, and I want you to tell me, or I'm having a discussion or a dispute with it. Put your hand down. You tell me one Bubba Misa. You know what that means?
Yes.
Good. You tell me one Bubba Misa, I find everything else that you say suspect. So that's a grandma story.
Oh, I know the Bubba Mice.
That's a Bubba Mice, a grandma story. It means it's an untruth. It means what grandmas tell when they tend to fabricate. So nobody wrote you the next day or 2 days later, or 3 days later, what a terrible time they had at your son's bar mitzvah because of the music.
Your Honor, excuse me.
Don't speak to me yet.
Okay.
So the answer to the question is, you gave him a check the day of the bar mitzvah because you didn't want to create a scene at the bar mitzvah. And then you were talking amongst yourselves. Not because you got emails from anybody the next day, because that's a lie, or the day after that, and you decided to stop payment on the check, right?
Right.
Now, after you stopped payment on the check, Mr. Herzig called you.
Right.
When you called him, what did Mr. Mora tell you?
My wife was unhappy with your performance.
And?
And we are not paying you, and we don't want to hear from you again. We've dusted our hands of you.
Was that the end of the conversation?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any subsequent conversation with him?
I tried to.
So what did you do, Mr. Herzig? Because that's the second part of their complaint for which they want $4,500.
I sent them eventually I sent them an email, I left messages.
I'm not talking about what you sent to them. They are complaining that you slandered them.
I sent them an email. That was the slander.
He wrote letters to all the religious leaders in the community with this case.
You have copies of the letters? And just a second. Do you have copies of the letters that he sent?
I have one copy with CC's underneath.
Fine, I'd like to see it.
This was registered to me.
Okay.
He also sent a letter to the owner of the Israelite, which is the Jewish paper here in Las Vegas. I have a letter also from...
He carried a picket sign in front of our school, religious school.
Just a second. Is this what you're talking about? This?
He sent that whole package.
Just a second.
Yes,
This says...
he sent that to Mike, the owner.
Okay. And it says, how about a headline like Bonnie and Paul Morris stiffed their MC DJ?
Yes.
Well, that's what you did.
Okay.
That's what you did.
Okay.
You wrote
I
him
don't
a
think
check.
that he should be
Listen to
telling
me. You wrote him a check.
the newspaper that.
Listen to me. You wrote him a check, and then you stopped payment on the check. That means he got stiffed.
Disc jockey Alan Herzig claims client Bonnie Moore owes for services rendered. Bonnie is countersuing, claiming Alan slandered her.
Mr. Herzig says in this letter that he spent substantial time in your house helping you get the pictures scanned. Is that true?
He agreed that I told him I just bought the scanner. He agreed to come over and do that. But he just showed me how to do it. I already knew.
Listen to me. The answer is he came over to your house, which is not contained in this contract, to help you scan the pictures into a scanner. Not contained in here. He did it because he was being...
Yes, he was. Very nice to do that. Although his price was outrageous to begin with anyway.
Mrs. Herzog, that's an untruth. He was charging you $1,150 to perform at your event, which included this montage of pictures. And if you're telling me that that's an outrageous price, you should have hired somebody else. I'm telling you it's not an outrageous price.
Okay.
Well, okay. And I'm still trying to find slander worth slander at all.
I don't think any of my business should be brought to the attention of my four rabbis he sent it to in the newspaper.
But listen, what you think is one thing. He could have been a nice person and not sent it to anybody else. But he chose not to do that. That's not actionable.
Going to the school at checkout time with a poster that says I owe him money, and I have a letter here from the receptionist.
Listen to me.
Did you want to
He has a right. I'm not looking at a letter. He has a right to do that. You do owe him money. That's not libelous. That's something that's untrue. You do owe him money.
Okay. I
if
believe
you
he did a job. I think it was inferior.
Just a second. Then you don't use him again. Let us say that you go out for a meal, Mrs. Mora, with your husband and your family, and you go to a new restaurant, and you eat at the restaurant, you finish everything on your plate, and you get back in your car that evening, and you say, you know, they advertise this restaurant as having the best ribs in town. And the truth is, I don't like those ribs as well as I like the rib guy at the end of the street. So I played by credit card, and I'm going to cancel my credit card, despite the fact that I ate the ribs, paid the bill, and I didn't like the way the waiter spoke to me, so I'm going to cancel that charge on my credit card. You think you'd get very far, Mrs. Mora? Zero. So if you don't like the restaurant, the next time you're going out for dinner, go someplace else. It's not as if Mr. Herzog didn't show up. It's not as if you got somebody else to play instead of him. You allowed him to start at 5:30, finish at 9:30. I am absolutely 100% positive that people clapped to the music, danced if they danced to the music.
They didn't.
Were on the dance floor. Maybe not everybody. Some people were on the dance floor during the course of the event. In any event, you used his services. You ate his ribs. When you stopped payment on his check, you had no right to do that. You stiffed him, you stole his money, and then you said, you don't like it? Sue me. Which is what he's doing. He wanted to embarrass you. I assume he embarrassed you. That's too bad. What he was saying is true. He's allowed to embarrass you. You have anything else you want to say?
Yes, how about he promised me the lighting system, the sound system was bad. I have on tape.
No, madam, I want you to take a look at your contract. And I want you to show me in your contract where it's in the contract.
No, it's
Listen to me. That's what you are bound by.
Okay.
The four corners of the contract. I want you to show me, Miss Mora, in the contract where it says that he's going to supply you with a lighting system.
Well, how about the sound system here?
Listen to me. I said, show me in the contract, in the four corners of the contract, where he says he's going to supply you with a lighting system.
That was my mistake, not having him write it, I guess.
You're absolutely right. What kind of business are you in, sir?
Hotel.
What kind of business in the hotel?
Casino.
What do you do in the casino?
I'm a department manager.
You know about contracts?
A little bit.
Good. Well, you have to explain that to your wife, sir. Anything that's within the four corners of the contract, or what courts consider if you sue him. If you said to me he didn't show up until 7 o'clock, and I find that he didn't show up until 7 o'clock, that means he gets docked. The fact that you didn't like the ribs is, as we say in French, bad. Next time, do you have another bar mitzvah that you're planning? Don't use Mr. Herzog. He doesn't want you to use him. They owe you $650.
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff and your counterclaims dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
What is your excuse? You may step out.
Costume designer Diane Starling says her former live-in boyfriend, Frank Bartelli, owes for unpaid rent and a loan for tires. Frank says Diane's drinking forced him to move.
Come to order. All rise. Everybody get up. Be quiet. Thank you. Your Honor, this is case number 162 on the calendar in the matter of Starling versus Bartelli. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Miss Starling, Mr. Bartelli was your former live-in boyfriend, and according to your complaint, he owes you a whole bunch of money. He owes you some money for rent, he owes you some money for some court costs that you laid out for him. You want him to pay for new tires for your car. All in all, you're really annoyed with him. I gather that Mr. Bartelli moved out unceremoniously with no notice. Is that right, sir?
I feel I don't owe her the money.
No. You moved out unceremoniously, which means that you didn't have a discussion with her, you didn't sit down and talk to her, you just packed up your things, you decided you had enough, and you just left.
Your Honor, I just fed up with it. I don't feel I should have...
Just say yes. Just say yes. That's what you said here.
Nah, I don't feel it's right.
Oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. I'm going to get to you in a second. All right, Miss Starling. I have to see if I'm playing now with a level playing field. Here we go, because I haven't asked you a question yet. When did you and Mr. Bartelli move into this apartment that you shared?
In October of 2003. No.
Had you lived together before?
Yes.
And when you moved into this apartment, did you both sign the lease?
Yes, we did.
Can
And I
see
have a copy of that.
the lease?
I don't think, I didn't sign the lease.
Oh, take me back to the family court, please. Okay, so, Mr. Bartelli, it is your statement, sir, that you did not sign the lease. Is that, you did not
I
sign
don't
the
remember
lease?
signing the lease.
Ah, that's a different thing. Shut up. I believe you said I didn't sign no lease. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was a quote, because that was bad grammar. Now you say I don't remember signing the lease. Is that right, sir?
Yeah.
So then, Officer Byrd, would you please show Mr. Bartelli this witnessed signature on the lease?
It's your signature?
Yeah, but I don't remember signing it.
Mr. Bartelli?
You just don't remember.
Mr. Bartelli, that's possible that you don't remember signing it, but that doesn't mean you didn't sign it.
See, me and Miss Starling were together, and she sent roses and flowers to my office trying to get us back together. Then whenever I didn't comply to that, she took and sent me court papers.
Miss Starling, I don't want to hear from you. I want him. He's dying to say this, so you know what my sense is? If I let him say this maybe once, maybe he'll get it out of his system so that when I ask him questions, he'll give me a relevant answer. All right? So, Mr. Bartelli, go to it.
Excuse me?
All I said to you was, sir, the fact that you don't remember signing it is belied by the fact that you did actually sign it in front of a witness. And you started to tell me about flowers and candy that she sent you. And I didn't see how those two things were connected in any way.
Well, me and Miss Starling used to drink, and we quit drinking. We moved to Orlando, and she had lost her job, and her son moved in with us. So I feel I owed her money because I had to pay that money. And then she started drinking, that's why I left. And then when I left, she started sending flowers and stuff to my job, and then I didn't comply to that, and she sent me court papers.
Now he got it all out of the system, right? That's your whole story,
Yeah.
and you're sticking to it,
I feel
right?
I don't owe the money.
That's your story, and you're sticking to it. Good. Now we have to go do this my way, which is collect information, right? And then I have to make a ruling on her lawsuit. Do you understand, Mr. Bartelli? What kind of work do you do, sir?
I do carpentry work.
Okay. Which I assume you understand very well. Good. This is what I understand. I understand evidence. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you signed a lease on the apartment in October of 2003. And when did he move out?
April 3rd, 2004.
Now, you moved out, sir, because according to what you said in your mentally prepared statement, she started to drink again, you didn't want to live with her anymore.
Yeah.
So you want to tell me whether you discussed moving out, or you didn't discuss moving out, or you just packed your bags one day and left?
I just packed my bag and left.
If you just packed your bags one day and left, sir, you are still responsible, at least partially, on this lease. You signed a lease, obligating yourself to pay half the rent for a period of time. Do you understand that? Now, why do you think that you shouldn't be held responsible for at least paying the rent until such time as she can secure someone else that she wants to live with, if that's at all possible?
Well, I feel I didn't ask her for money whenever she had lost her job. Her son had moved in with us, and I didn't ask for money back for that. So why should I have to pay that?
How much
rent?
were you supposed to pay in rent, Mr. Bartelli?
The rent's $1,000 a month.
So your half was $500? And how did you expect her to cover the other $500 a month for the remainder of the lease?
Yeah, but see, I didn't ask her for money for the electric and food and stuff like that.
I paid it. Okay. All right. Now, you also claim that you helped him out when he was arrested a while ago by giving him $500 to pay for some bad checks that he had written. And Mr. Bartelli, you don't deny that you had gotten yourself into some criminal trouble.
No, I don't deny, but see, all of our money was in together.
No.
She might have paid that, but I paid this.
Listen!
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So is what you're telling me after you wrote this series of bad checks, you decided to open up a joint checking account with you? No way.
Yeah, just to say.
just got
no
a
way.
savings.
And later today,
I reached back and pulled the chair up so I could sit down. He had pulled that chair, and I fell down. And I yelled, Philip, why did you move that chair? He laughed.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diane Starling says ex-boyfriend Frank Bartelli owes for unpaid rent and a loan for tires. Frank says he and Diane shared their money.
Let me remind you what you said, sir, in your answer. You said, I don't deny that she gave me the money for these bad checks.
Yeah.
How did you pay her back for the jail bail money?
Well, she had borrowed the money from her brother. And like I said, we worked and all of her money was in one bank account. So she might have took the money out to pay that, but we took my money out to pay other bills. So all of her money was in the same account.
But you said that she borrowed that $500 from her brother.
Yeah, she paid her brother.
So if she borrowed that $500 from her brother, did you pay her brother back the $500?
Yeah, she sent checks to her brother.
She sent her checks to her brother for the $500.
Mm-hmm.
And the $500 was coming out of a bank account that you both pooled your money for household expenses. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
No, everything.
What's everything?
All of her money was in the same account. My whole check gets deposited, and her did too.
Well, was this bad check money an expense that you anticipated?
No, this is all of her money was in the same
I'm asking.
account.
Try to listen to what I'm saying, Mr. Bartelli. When you wrote the bad checks, did you know you were going to have to pay him back?
Yes.
So why did you write them?
At the time, I didn't have no money, didn't have a choice.
So it was always your intention to pay back the money for the bad checks, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
In what year did you write the bad checks?
2002.
And when did they finally catch up with you?
2003.
On what checking account did you write the bad checks?
That was out of my checking account.
Why didn't you use your joint account that you had with her?
Because we didn't have that account at that time.
So is what you're telling me after you wrote this series of bad checks, you decided to open up a joint checking account with you? No way.
No, just a savings.
Right, no way.
I just got a saving account. She got a
So you
checking.
didn't have a joint checking account?
No.
No.
Please.
All right. Now let's get to the tires. He used your truck, and after he left, you found the tires needed to be replaced.
They were bald.
They were
With
bald.
wires
Well,
showing
that's
this
your
one.
fault. Listen, Diane, darling, you let him use the truck, right?
Right. I didn't
How
notice they
long-
were so bad.
Listen to me. Well, you should have noticed. Mr. Bartelli, I know that you don't feel as if you owe Miss Starling any money, but you do. You can't just decide that you are fed up and pack up your bags and move out, because that's immature and it's irresponsible, and it's sticking someone else with a big obligation that they didn't anticipate paying by themselves. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So you owe her $2,500 for the rent. She also helped you out by borrowing money from her brother, and you didn't pay her back. Despite all your speeches, you didn't pay her back. So I'm entering a judgment in the plaintiff's favor in the amount of $3,000. Do the right thing, Mr. Bartelli, that's all.
Parties are
Thank you.
excused. You may step out.
I think it went very well. I'm glad that Mr. Bartelli is being held accountable for what he did to me.
She just upset because I left her.
Well, I wanted to ask him to step outside, but he was too small.
She just left messages begging me to come back, and I wouldn't do it.
I missed him. He was a good guy, basically.
I hope we could be friends.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Elliott versus Worsham, step forward, please.
Plaintiff Sheila Elliott is suing casino owner Ken Worsham for pain and suffering due to an accident in his casino. Sheila says she fell to the ground when a worker removed a chair from underneath her during a game of Texas Hold'em.
Mr. Worsham, do you operate a casino? Is that what you do?
Yes,
Where is the casino?
Sacramento.
According to what I've read, Miss Elliott, you were playing some sort of a game, Texas Poker?
Texas Hold'em.
Texas Hold'em. I'm trying to figure out how this game was played, but I gathered that there are 10 players to start with. Is that right, sir?
Normally there's 9.
And when one person leaves, they take away that spot, and it goes to fewer people and fewer people, almost like musical chairs. Miss Elliott was playing this Texas Hold'em, and according to you, you went to sit down, and one of the employees of the casino had removed the chair that you were going to sit on. Is that right?
At the time, the chair was there.
Well, when you went to sit down, the chair wasn't there.
Yeah, when I went to sit down, it was gone.
And you fell.
Yes.
And you want Mr. Worsham
Worsham.
to pay you $5,000.
Yes.
What time did you start to play Texas Hold'em?
I started there early in the afternoon.
What
like,
date?
On the 2nd.
2nd of what?
Of January.
And what time did this incident happen when you fell?
It happened like, to my recollection, I would say 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Anybody have a different time and date?
Yes, it happened about 6:30 a.m. in the morning.
So she fell about 6:30 a.m. in the morning.
That's
How do you
correct.
know that, sir?
We had a tape of it, of the incident.
And that's what the tape indicates?
Yes.
Is that possible?
No, it happened before then. Now, what his tape is showing, it could be. I didn't see this tape. I asked to see the tape.
That's not what I asked you.
Okay.
I said, could it have been at 6:30?
No, I believe it was before 6:30.
Who was the employee who was moving around the chairs?
Mr. Philip Leong.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sheila Elliott says she was injured during a game of Texas Hold'em at Ken Warsham's casino. Sheila says a casino worker removed her chair while she was trying to sit down.
Mr. Leon, you're an employee of Mr. Worsham's?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me what time this incident happened?
I come in, see play on the table, and
What
around
time?
6:30.
You moved a chair, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me why you moved the chair?
Because got a player get off the table, so I get off the table. So I ask anybody want to move the chair. We have 10 seats.
Mr. Worsham, you're going to have to act as partial
Okay.
translator for me. I'm not following this.
Okay, well, he asked if anybody was going to move seats, and then when no one said they were going to move, then you take a chair out.
Okay, is that what was basically happening? One chair was being taken away?
No, ma'am.
Well, tell me what your version of these events
My
are.
version is it was late in the morning.
Okay, go ahead.
There were approximately about 6 to 7 players at the table, not 10.
Okay.
And not that many chairs.
Okay.
So what happened was Philip was reading a book for about maybe 30 to 40 minutes. So when I noticed that it was a few players and I had been sitting in this one particular seat for so long, I looked over at him reading the book. I said, Philip, can I move into that seat? He said, yeah, go ahead. Just like that. So was me, a chair, and the third chair, the one I want to move into. So I didn't go behind the chairs. I came in front of the chairs. And I put my hand on the table like you normally do, as I do all the time. I reached back, because the chair, I felt the chair on the calf of my leg. I reached back to pull the chair up so I could sit down. No chair. He had pulled that chair immediately. And I yelled. I said, Philip, why did you move that chair? And he said, oh, and they all started laughing. He laughed. That's what made me so mad. And when I fell down, my fell on my left shoulder. And when I fell down, I felt something like in the back of my neck, back of my head, like, and they was gonna pull me up with this arm. And I said, no.
Miss Elliott, after you fell down, did you find a chair?
No, the chair wasn't
Shh. Did you find a chair to sit and continue playing that morning?
After they got me up?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
And how many hours did you continue to play after you fell on your behind?
No,
just a second. Just answer my question. How many hours did you continue to play?
I stayed for several hours. I stayed there.
How many?
Oh, I
1
stayed
hour,
all, no.
2
no,
hours?
No, I stayed all that day.
3 hours.
All
All day?
Yes.
And I read your papers, and you said that after you fell, however, you felt a little woozy, and you went to the bathroom, and you took a Vicodin.
That's right.
Where'd you get the Vicodin from?
I carry Vicodins with me all the time.
For what?
Because I had back surgery back in '92.
So
and
you
when I have back
92
problems,
was 12 years ago.
I have back problems, and ever since I had the back surgery, I've been on pain medication.
So you take pain medication for your back?
Not frequently now, but I just carry it with me in case.
Carry it with you just in case you
yes,
fall.
if I get, yes.
And
not
you sat
in case
and played,
I fall.
Miss
no.
Elliott, and you sat and played all day that day, is
Waiting
that right?
for him to come in.
I don't care what, listen.
Yes,
Miss Elliott,
okay.
listen to me very carefully, my dear.
All right.
This is not windfall day. What Mr. Worsham said to you when you approached him, because you waited for him all day, instead of going to a hospital if you were injured because you couldn't move your shoulder. Your shoulder was all out, and your back is out, and you're taking Vicodin. You go to a hospital. You go to a doctor. You don't continue to play Texas Hold'em. Elliott, Mr. Leong, didn't purposely pull a chair out from under you. He wasn't playing a Halloween prank. You weren't injured. You only get paid if you're injured, even if he was negligent. And people who are injured don't stick around for a whole day and play Texas Hold'em, Miss Elliott. Do we understand each other?
I understand you.
Very good. Now, you offered her $500?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you offer her $500?
Well, she kept asking me what I was going to do for her, and I told her nothing, and she came back in and asked me again, and I finally said, okay, I'll give you $500. And she said, is that all I get? And I said, yes, that's all I'll give you. And she left again, went back and played cards.
What time was this? Do you recall?
This was another day. This was about 3 days later. In fact, I believe it was on a Monday or Tuesday.
You mean she came back, her injuries resolved, and she came back 3 days later?
Yes.
Is that right?
I came back to see him, not to play cards.
But you did play cards.
I wait while I was waiting for him. Yes.
Miss Elliott, courts have important business to take care of. It is not the role of courts to allow people to abuse them with nonsense lawsuits. Your lawsuit is nonsense. You were not injured. If you were injured,
Yes,
you would.
was.
No. If you were injured, a person of your age knows that if you fall on the floor and if you're injured, you don't sit around all day playing cards. You take care of your injuries. That's what you do. You chose not to do that. And you chose to come back a couple of days later to see him again, to ask him how much money he was going to give you. And while you were waiting, you weren't injured so much that you couldn't sit down and play a few games of Texas Hold'em or wherever else you were going to play. So, Miss Elliott, this is not a windfall day against Mr. Worsham. He offered you $500. You should have taken it. You didn't. He's not offering it anymore.
I didn't come back to
lawsuit's
him.
dismissed. That's
Okay,
all.
thank you.
Parties are excused and they step out.
Assistant Roseanne Chronister and her son, 17-year-old Corey Rossell, are suing construction worker Russell Wynn for the cost to fix Corey's Ford Taurus. Corey claims Russell was chasing him and ran him off the road.
This is case number 212 on the calendar in the matter of Rossell Chronister versus Wynn. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Chronister, this is your son?
Yes.
He's 17 years old?
Yes.
Have you ever had any trouble with him driving a car?
That was the first incident. He had only had his license for a month when this incident occurred.
Okay. What's your first name?
Corey.
So let's talk about this, Corey. Okay. According to your complaint, Mr. Wynn is a real nut. And he chased you in his car for no reason and caused you to have an accident. And after you had the accident and he caught up with you, he slammed his car into yours, causing damage to your car. So you had damage from the accident and you had damage from his car hitting yours.
Yeah.
And in addition, you say that he slammed the trunk of your car on your arm.
Yes, ma'am.
When you went to get a baseball bat out of the trunk of your car, and that caused you injury. All told, you want Mr. Wynn to compensate you in the amount of $2,000.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Wynn says that he was being a good Samaritan.
Yes, ma'am.
That he saw you involved in a hit-and-run accident. You took off after you hit something, and he was following you until he could get the police to apprehend you. So I'm going to start with you, Mr. Wynn. On what day were you being this good Samaritan?
June 30th, I believe it was.
April 30th.
April 30th. I'm sorry, excuse me.
And where were you going to and where were you coming from?
I was coming home from work.
And what time of the day was it that you were coming home from work?
Approximately 3:45, 10 to 4.
What kind of car were you driving?
I drive a 95 Dodge van. It's my work van, so I carry all my equipment and tools in it. It's a full-size van.
And what car were you driving, Corey?
95 Ford Taurus.
Whose car is that?
That was my car. It was in her name, but I was driving.
Who was with you?
3 of my friends were with me.
Did you ever have an agreement with your mother not to drive other people around in your car?
No, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Wynn. So you're driving down the road, and what do you see that draws your attention?
I was heading south on Blanding. He was coming north on Blanding. There was a white car. It was a good ways ahead of me, probably 100, 150 yards ahead of me.
Ahead of you?
Ahead of me.
So you're going in the opposite direction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
He made the turn to go down Alligator, which is my road that I go down also. I seen him hit the back end of the white car. It wasn't real hard, but he did hit it and just took off. I mean, he just nailed it and went. The lady who was driving the other car, which I didn't stop, had pulled over, was getting out of the car as I rounded the corner, and I just stepped on it trying to catch up with the car, see if I could at least get the tag number. That's all my intention was, is to get the tag number. Well, being he's in a smaller car, and I'm in a big van with a lot of tools and equipment, I couldn't keep up with that van, with the car.
My car is not a smaller car. It's not like a little bitty car. It's a big car. I could fit like probably 6 or 7 people in the car.
I'm not asking you that, Corey, dear.
Sorry.
Mrs. Chronister, you weren't there.
I know.
You weren't there. Does Mr. Wynn look like a nut to you?
No.
He does not. He doesn't look like a nut.
But I believe his behaviors throughout the thing were...
Just a second. He doesn't look like a nut.
No.
So if your son told you that he didn't hit this car, his son is lying to you.
My son never said he did not. He admitted to hitting the car, even to the police.
Good. So you hit this car.
It's not a bump car.
After you hit the car, what did you do?
On the alligator, the road that he was turning on, we stopped. The other car was going the other way, like we were in the median and we were coming across. We stopped, looked over, and then her car just kept going. So we just kept going. And then with this car, the van, we seen a van behind us. I started taking the turns to go to my house. They were like, this van's following you. I said, the van's following me? They said, yeah, speed up. So I
Did you, just a second, did you get out of your car to look and see if there was any damage on your car?
No, ma'am.
Why not? When you hit somebody, when you hit somebody and you're moving, that's what you do.
Yes, ma'am. It was a very slight bump, so I knew there was nothing wrong with the car.
Got it?
Yes.
Now, I can understand a woman in a car with 4 men in another car who's bumped, maybe not feeling comfortable about pulling to a complete stop, if that's what she says is happening. But that doesn't mean his first reaction isn't to get a plate number and then report it to the police, right?
I had no disagreement with that. Right.
Fine. So he started following you. And then what happened?
So they were like, he's following you. So I took down a couple roads. I was still driving, just regular driving. And he kept following.
Now, you saw him immediately after you hit the white car.
No, man, I took a turn, and then they said...
Why did you take a turn?
I never saw him. My friend said...
Why did you take a turn?
Because I was turning to go to my house. I just kept going. I didn't think nothing of it.
What street did you turn down?
It's just like a little dirt road that comes onto a alligator.
Do you know what street he's talking about?
No, ma'am, I had it written down, but I didn't. I apologize, I didn't bring it. But he turned down that one, he turned down several of them. As far as regular driving, he was fishtailing.
You hit the white car, and how much later did you take a turn?
Probably 5 minutes. I mean, I had to go down Alligator a little way.
About 3 blocks.
3 blocks. Now, he's following you. You're 4 guys in a car. He's 1 guy in a van.
Well, we didn't know who, like, I couldn't see inside his van. We didn't know anything about the van. We just knew that he kept saying he was following you, he's following you. So I said, okay, well, let's find out if he's following me. So I started turning down roads that I wasn't on my way to go home. And I just started down and turned him, and he's still there. I started looking in my rearview mirror, he's still there.
Why didn't you go down the road and go home and call the police?
Because my house was an hour away from there. I live a long way away from town.
Well, what about your friends? How close do they live?
I would have had...
Corey,
yes,
Corey.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
As a very, very dear friend of mine says, everybody's entitled to their opinion. You have your opinion, I have my opinion. Ultimately, it's only my opinion that counts.
And later today...
So you went from her to her, back to her, is that right? Is that what you're telling me? You must have some secret something, George, and if you do, it's got to be a good secret, because I don't see it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Corey Rossell says fellow motorist Russell Wynn ran him off the road during a chase. Russell says Corey was fleeing the scene of a traffic accident.
Now, did you ever think that the woman that you hit in the white car was thinking the same thing about you and your 4 friends in your car?
No, ma'am, because we had stopped and we saw her drive off, so we just thought it was just...
She didn't drive off.
No, ma'am, he didn't even slow down.
She didn't drive off. That's what you told your mother.
If he'd have stopped, ma'am, I'd have went on my way, thought nothing of it.
If she would have stopped, how would he have known that she stopped if he was following us from the minute that he saw it?
Because he says he saw you hit her and take off. That's how.
That didn't happen. We stopped. I swear we stopped.
That's what you do when you hit another car, even if it's a little bump. You get out, you look at your car, you look at their car, you say, is everything all right? Are you all right? And then you leave. unless you're scared that you've had your driver's license for a month, you got 4 friends in the car, and maybe if you just take off, this whole nasty thing's just going to go away. It's just common sense, Corey. That's what makes the world go round, common sense. That's why he was chasing. He's not a nut. He sees 4 kids in a car, hit another car, and take off. And that's why he was following you.
Yeah. There was other incidents that made me feel different after the fact that we got onto the main road, and he was still right behind me. Well, it's just rained, so it was pretty slick outside, and I started going through all these roads. I finally got to the end of the road, so I turned onto a main road, and he was still right behind the road. He's still there. He got right up beside my car. This is why I didn't think he was actually following me, because he ran my car off of the road. And he ran my car off the road to where he almost ran right into my driver's side door. And then he got out, and all I could hear was him cussing and cussing and cussing. And so I just took off. I was like, I'm not going to sit here for this. And I took off, and then I was like, I'm turning here, and it just rained, and I had a lot of dirt on my tires, so it's slick, and I just ran right into the tree. And then after I hit the tree, I backed up, and the guy was still back there. And I started going through the parking lot, and they're like, he's still there.
And you got 3 other teenagers in the car with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. He's supposed to stop.
Well, I agree at one instant, but I'll be honest, I have told my children that because previously in Florida around our area, people have been shot, you know.
You mean cars bumped?
Cars bumped, you know,
that's why the white car may have moved on with 4 men in the car behind them.
I agree.
How do you not do the right thing and then come to court to sue about it?
Because I think he took justice into his own hands. I think he could have taken the license plate down.
Just a second. Do you think that your son was driving recklessly during that time?
I'm not saying he was in the right either, but I'm just...
Listen to me, Ms. Chronister. Then what you have to say is, if my son did something wrong, and as a result of my son doing something wrong, there was damage to my car, you don't come to court and sue over it.
I guess my main problem and concern comes in from when they did get on the main road. And he did come up on the side of them to the point where...
So get him over so that he would stop his car.
And when he did stop his car, he comes out cussing and hollering.
How many minutes did it take for him to chase you down?
Probably 20, 25.
He's on his way home from work.
And I understand that, but it's not even like his car was involved in it. He was supposedly being a good Samaritan, I understand, but I just think he went overboard.
You're entitled to your opinion. As a very, very dear friend of mine says, everybody's entitled to their opinion. You have your opinion, I have my opinion. Ultimately, it's only my opinion that counts. Your son did the wrong thing. He hit a car, he took off from the accident. This gentleman who was just looking to go home after a day's work said, it's not right, they just hit this lady in a car and took off. 4 kids in a Taurus, and I'm going to catch up with him, and I'm going to get his license plate, and I'm going to see to it that he's reported, and your son takes off and takes him on a 25-minute chase. I would have taken away his driving privileges. Did you get him a new car?
No.
Good. Your case is dismissed.
But ma'am,
Thank you,
I have a question though. After my son wrecked, this is where the punitive comes in, he hits him from behind, gets out of his car with a bat, and follows my son with a bat in his hand, screaming and yelling at him. How is that?
And what did your son do?
My son stood there and yelled. They were yelling. His car was smoking. Then my son went around and went to get the bat, and that's when
went to get his bat.
Right.
Case is dismissed. Goodbye.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She kept going, like I said.
My intention was only to get his tag number.
No evidence was found that I hit her.
I was bound and determined to get the tag number.
There was no evidence she was ever there.
That's the only thing I was trying to do is get a tag number.
It's just my word against his, and I guess his won.
I just doing my duty.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Lopez Chantarasaka versus Muth. Step forward, please.
18-year-old Beverly Lopez and her boyfriend, 20-year-old waiter George Chantarasaka, are suing George's former lover, 19-year-old tutor Saram Muth, for breaking into their home and stealing property.
Pronounce your last name for me.
Chantarasaka.
Chantarasaka. What's your first name?
George.
George. Do you mind?
No.
According to your complaint, this young lady is George's former girlfriend.
Ex-girlfriend.
Former, that's former.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry.
And it is your claim that she broke into the apartment that you now share with George.
Yes.
Broke the door to your bedroom, vandalized the room, and took some of your property. Your defense is that it's your apartment, and you have the right to go into your apartment because you're on the lease.
Yes.
And you did take some of her property, but that was a mistake.
Yes, I did.
But that you gave it back to her.
Yes, I did.
When did you break up with George?
We broke up a week before I left, which was about May 24th.
And when did you come back to the apartment on the incident that Miss Lopez is complaining about?
A week after June 11th.
And when did you move into the apartment, Miss Lopez?
I think the last week of May.
And you moved in with George?
Yes.
So now he's your boyfriend?
He's been my boyfriend. We broke up for about a month, and that's when he got with her.
So you went from her to her, back to her, is that right? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
You must have some secret something, George, and if you do, it's got to be a good secret, because I don't see it. Now, you came back June 18th. Tell me why you came into the apartment. What were you looking for?
I came back to the apartment to drop off his wallet because he left it in my cousin's car. And I was there to pick up some of my stuff and take it back to California with me. Little did I know, my door was locked. So out of anger, I broke my door.
The door that you had that you say was locked, is that a door to a bedroom that you had shared with George?
Yes.
So it was George's bedroom as well?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So I broke off the doorknob, went in, took my stuff, and I also took her stuff out of anger.
And where did you put them when you took them?
I actually took it with me to California, but then I realized my stupidity, and I brought it back the next day.
You're lying.
Just a second, did you get it back?
No, I didn't get any of my stuff back.
Show me that you brought it back and gave it to her.
I have a witness who can't come in because she's a minor.
Well, then if you have a witness that I can't question, then you have no witness.
You're right, I don't. But I did bring it back. Why would she wait for a month to file a report saying that I stole her stuff?
I called you and I told you that I want to make things
Listen,
back.
Miss Lopez, don't speak to her. Speak to me.
Okay.
Did you get your property back?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Do you have a bill for the replacement of the doorknob?
No, I don't. But this is the doorknob. This is how it looks when she broke it off.
I don't need the doorknob, madam. She says she broke the doorknob. I need what it's going to cost to fix it.
Well, we don't have the bill.
You have a list of items that she took out of your room?
I have a police report.
Well, you originally told the police, madam, that all the stuff that was taken was original value and current value were the same, $900. Why are you suing her now for $4,500?
Because my things are actually worth more than $900 at
You mean they increased in value since you filed the police report?
No, I didn't.
Listen to me. If you file a police report and they ask you what the value is and you gave them their original value and the current value, I assume that when you filed that police report you were trying to be as accurate as possible. Is that right?
Yes, but at the time I wasn't really thinking because I was really...
Now you're thinking? Is what you're telling me now you're thinking? Heaven help me. You have no right to take up property and you have no proof that you returned it. I have no idea how much it's going to cost to fix the doorknob because you don't bring me a bill.
And she broke my video camera too.
You have a bill to have it fixed?
No, I don't.
Well, what am I supposed to? I'm not a mind reader.
Your Honor, I did not break his video camera.
I'm not considering the video camera because people have to know that when they come to court, they have to be prepared. They have to be prepared with documents. They have to be prepared with receipts. They have to be prepared.
But
I'm speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They have to be prepared with an estimate of what it's going to cost to fix property if there's an allegation of damage. And if you don't have that, the judge isn't going to get it for you. George, you got it?
Yes, yes.
Good. As far as you're concerned, you made this report soon after the incident occurred. You told the police what happened. You told the police what your property was worth. You told them at that time that it was worth $900, which is probably a stretch. Certainly that stretch isn't going to be stretched into $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
What is our excuse? You must step out.
27-year-old Sean Ari is suing his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old Billy Peterson, for keying the side of his car. Billy is denying the charge.
Now, this is case number 115 on the calendar, the matter of Ari versus Peterson. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
All right, Mr. Ari, the defendant is the now ex-boyfriend of your now current girlfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that when he found out that you were involved with his then girlfriend, he vandalized your car. Mr. Peterson says, I didn't do it.
Right.
When did he vandalize your car, sir?
March 23rd, but it happened, I didn't find out. It happened until the 24th, the following morning.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding him vandalizing your car.
That day, we got home from work.
Who's we?
Me and Jennifer. I went to her apartment. It was probably around 11 to 12 that night. When he came, I was inside with her sister watching television. I heard them arguing. The door comes swinging open. I see her flying to the side, and he comes rushing in. And at the time, I'm lying on the ground watching television. They just moved into the apartment, and he runs up with his hands balled in the fist, facial mannerism, just like, you know, very aggressive, and I can tell he wanted, you know, to fight or something like that. So I stood up.
Had you ever seen him before?
No, I never saw him in my life.
Met. So you
never
stood
met
up.
The guy. So, yeah.
And when you stood up, what happened?
Oh, when I stood up, his whole mannerism changed real quick. I was like, what's the problem, you know? And at this time, I started taking off my watch, and he looks at me, he's like, oh, I just want to ask you a question. So we walk outside.
What were you taking your watch off for?
Well, you know, I want to know what time it was, man, you know? So.
Why were you taking your watch off?
Well, it was a nice watch, and I just didn't want to mess it up. So,
okay.
Yeah. So anyway, he follows me outside, and he asked me, what's the deal between you and Jennifer? And I asked him, I was like, well, do you know who I am? He was like, no. And I was like, well, I don't know you either, and is Jennifer your girlfriend? And he kind of like paused and hesitated. I was like, is Jennifer your girlfriend? And he was like, well, I was like, well, dude, you know, I don't know you don't know me, you have to ask her. And I left him out there, and I went back inside.
Had Jennifer told you she had a boyfriend?
She told me that she broke up with him around December, January. That, like, he was assaultive, would hit her and stuff like that. She just got tired of it.
So she told you at the time she invited you over that she didn't have a boyfriend?
Yes. We'd known each other for probably 2 or 3 weeks before I ever been asked to come over to her house. It had been like a month before I even came over there. I started working where we work at in January.
Now tell me about the vandalism to your car.
Okay, well, after I left him outside, he did come back in again. He came back in and told her that he wanted to grab his stuff. And she was like, well, you don't have anything here, but whatever, take whatever you want and leave. After he went upstairs, taking whatever, he was up there for a while. When she went back up there, they started arguing again. I got tired of it, and I got up and I was like, look, is there a problem? And that's when he left. He finally left. And then Jennifer and her sister watched him through the window.
Don't tell me what they saw.
I'm sorry, man.
Jennifer, what did you see?
After he went outside, my sister and I were looking out the window. At that point, I seen him like walk around the car, and it looked like he was just dragging his finger along the sides of the car. And he just walked around the whole vehicle, and then I seen him just walk away and get in his truck and leave.
Did you tell Mr. Ari what you had seen?
No, I didn't tell Sean at that time because I didn't want them to fight any longer. And my little sister was there, and I didn't want her exposed to this. And I knew how upset Sean was about the whole thing, and how much more he would be upset if he knew that Billy was anywhere around his car.
Well, when did he find the damage to his car?
That following morning, ma'am.
Did you stay over that night?
Yeah, she asked me to, because she said she was scared. So.
And when you went out in the morning, what did you find?
A nice little decoration around my car.
Can I see it, please? You have
yes, ma'am.
pictures. See it. Did you speak to him about it?
Right after we called the cops, and Sean and the cops left. I received a phone call from a private number on my cell phone, and it was Billy, and he was asking me, how's your friend's car? How's your friend's car? And saying, like, if I was to say anything, it's going to happen to my car, and that I was his, and I would always be his, and no one else's. I hung up, and he continued to call me back on private numbers, and I went ahead and called the cops.
Okay, I'll hear you.
On March 23rd, I went over to see Jennifer Gifford, who is now my ex-girlfriend. She was my girlfriend at the time. We talked about our relationship for the simple fact that I had just helped her move into this home. It was actually supposed to be me moving into the home, but it didn't turn out that way as her sister moved in. At that time, we were just discussing our relationship. She asked me what was going on. I asked her if everything was okay between us. Basically, I was expressing, like my love for her. She seemed pretty apprehensive to really speak to me at that point. She seemed just not her usual self. I've dated her for about three and a half years.
You knew before that things were not right, Mr. Peterson, because you were supposed to, according to you, move into this apartment together. She had been in this apartment for a month, and you weren't living with her. So you knew something wasn't right a month ago.
Well, I have a child.
How old is the child?
3 years old, and that was a complication at hand.
So you knew that things weren't right between the two of you for at least a month.
She actually lived with me in my home, and things were good. We didn't have any complications.
When she moved into her own place, and you weren't living with her, you knew that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you go over there for at such a late hour?
She received a diamond ring from me. March, when I went over the 23rd.
When did she receive a diamond ring from you?
Christmas.
Okay.
Okay. When I went over there the 23rd of March, discussing issues in regards to our relationship, this gentleman here, the plaintiff, exited the doorway asking me who I was at that time. Now we got myself, this gentleman, and her outside in a very awkward situation. I asked her who was he. She didn't respond. He asked me who I was, and I told him.
What did you tell him?
I said, I'm her boyfriend. Who are you?
Why you went over there so late, sir?
Well, because usually I stay the night there, and I had stayed the night there like several days prior to this circumstance.
Did you take the engagement ring?
Yes.
Get to what happened when you left.
She actually, during the time that we spoke outside, all three of us, me and him didn't come to any terms of agreement whatsoever. We didn't even discuss anything. I asked her if this was the way it's going to be, if I could get my belongings. She allowed me to enter the house. I went and got all my belongings. I had shoes, pajamas, had the ring. I walked downstairs holding all my belongings. This gentleman was waiting there by the door. And when I walked by him with my stuff, he basically, quote unquote, said, the next time we meet, it ain't gonna be nice. Closing the door at that time, slamming it, saying, it was an indicator like, you're not welcome here. So at that point, I got in my vehicle, I left home. I heard from Mrs. Gifford the next morning. She contacted me, she said, Sean is accusing you of messing up his car. I said, I didn't do anything like that, okay? And you should know me better than that. We were together 3 years, I never did anything like that. So basically, that's how it went. And
what do you think keyed his car?
I don't know. It's a new neighborhood, so I really wasn't sure. Like I said, I'd made sure that, when I moved her in.
Who are you?
Excuse me, I'm Billy's mother. My name is Anna Peterson.
You know anything about this case?
I know some. Jennifer Gifford called me that next day, and she said, I think Billy keyed my friend's car. And I says, why didn't you call us and say, Billy's over here, there's a problem? She had no response. I replied, you know us for 3 years. You know we don't condone any kind of negative behavior. She proceeded to cry and say, it wasn't supposed to be like this. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I said, no, Jennifer, you've been in my family for 3.5 years. I've come to love you, and it isn't supposed to be like this, okay? So prior to that, the day before, she had come to my home with my grandchild. Now, if they're not a couple, what is she doing with my grandbaby? She's come to my home the day prior to this happening, this incident. She has my granddaughter. I sit down and we have a heart-to-heart talk. I said, Jennifer, how are things with you and Billy? She says, we are working things out. I said, are you dating a certain individual? Not this gentleman. She replied, no. So at that point, I didn't feel there was a problem at all because they had still been seeing each other. She had been with us in March.
Jennifer, I have a question for you, dear.
Yes.
You didn't tell this gentleman, uncross your hands. You didn't tell Mr. Ari?
Yes, ma'am.
About what happened that night. He stayed all night.
Correct.
Correct? Now, private number called,
Yes.
and you say you spoke to Mr. Peterson,
Correct.
and then he kept calling. And you kept taking the phone calls, or did you let it go to voicemail?
I took a couple and then I stopped. I called the cops. They came and took a report and went and spoke to him and told him he needed to stop calling me and that if he came back to my house, he would be arrested for trespassing.
Did the police tell you to stop calling her?
Yes. They contacted me through the telephone, and they said that Mrs. Gifford has stated that you and her are not going to be in a relationship anymore, so please do not have any more contact or show up at her home. And I said, yes, sir. Not a problem.
What would make her call the police, Mr. Peterson?
I believe it lays down a foundation in which there's no pertinent evidence in which can be held against me in this predicament. I mean, given the circumstance at hand, I've been accused of vandalizing a car, and she asked me the next morning if I was okay.
Listen to me, Mr. Peterson. There are only two people that could vandalize that car. One was you, and one was Jennifer. Now, if Jennifer had a sick pathology, she could have said, listen, when he's sleeping, I'm going to go out, I'm going to vandalize his car, I'm going to key his car, and then I'm going to be able to get rid of Mr. Peterson once and for all, because he's going to stay away from me. She would have to be pretty nutty to do that. But those are the only two people, in my judgment, going to do it. Her sister wasn't going to do it. Her sister doesn't care whether she's seeing you, whether she's seeing him. She doesn't care. I just don't see her doing that, Mr. Peterson.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I told them they could go down there and play with the foosball table, but they were to not touch anything that was marked and to stay away from the motorcycle.
Any of your children touch the motorcycle?
No, ma'am.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sean Ari says his girlfriend's ex, Billy Peterson, vandalized his car by keying it. Billy admits he was angry, but claims he didn't do it.
You certainly had the opportunity to key his car. And after what you discovered that evening when you arrived at her house, there's no question you had the inclination to key his car. You weren't going to fight him because after he stood up, you figured you weren't going to get the best of this deal.
Probably not.
Probably not. So what's the next best thing to a young man's heart is his car. What kind of an estimate did you get to fix your car, sir?
The cheapest one was to cover up just the scratch without painting the whole car.
So, Mr. Peterson, in civil cases, courts have to decide, not beyond a reasonable doubt, that would be a criminal case as to whether you were guilty of vandalism, but whether there is more evidence than not, by a preponderance of the evidence, more evidence than not, as to whether or not I believe you keyed his car. Mr. Peterson, I believe you keyed his car. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,200. That's all.
Thank you, man.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When you date someone for a while, they may end up cheating on you. Basically what happened to me, they kind of got together and orchestrated the plan.
We didn't start dating until just recently, so, you know, and that happened in March.
He was threatening me and making it a jokingly manner of how my friend's car was.
She got caught, and now she don't know what to do about it.
Where I'm from, we don't scratch guys' cars, so, you know, me and him aren't from the same town.
I'm just glad it's done and over with and we don't have to deal with him anymore.
Like I said, it just goes to show, be careful who you date.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Mason versus Fleck. Step forward.
21-year-old Mark Mason is suing his mother's friend, Michael Fleck, for damage to a motorcycle and snowboard. Mark says Michael's children are the culprits.
Is this your mother?
Yes, it is.
Just step up, please. How old are you, Mr. Mason?
I'm 21.
Where do you live?
I live at my dad's and my mom's house, kind of between both of them.
When did this incident happen with your motorcycle and snowboard?
February of this winter.
And where were you living in February?
On the weekends, I was staying at my mom's house, and during the week at my dad's because it's closer to school.
Father have a house?
Yes, he does.
But you stored a motorcycle and a surfboard in the basement at your mother's house?
I was a motorcycle and a snowboard.
Snowboard?
Yep.
Now, Miss Mason, how do you know Mr. Fleck?
We dated a few years ago.
And he came to visit you in February?
Correct.
With his 3 children?
Yes.
What was the weather like the day he came to visit?
It was winter, so in Minnesota and Wisconsin, snowy and cold.
So the children were playing indoors?
Correct.
When did they ask you if they could go down to play in the basement?
I had shown them a tour of the home, and they saw the
Mark has a foosball table down there, and they had seen the foosball table and wanted to go down and play with the foosball table.
So what did you say?
I told them they could go down there and play with the foosball table, but they were to not touch anything that was Mark's and to stay away from the motorcycle.
And you told that to 3 little children?
Correct.
And then you were upstairs entertaining Mr. Fleck?
We had ordered pizza, so we were waiting for the pizza to get delivered.
Okay. This is your lawsuit, Mr. Mason.
Yep.
The lawsuit wants Mr. Fleck to pay for damage allegedly done by his 3 children when they were playing with a box downstairs in the basement, playing in a big old box. And they bumped up against either your snowboard or your bicycle and caused damage to your bicycle.
That's correct.
Right? He's not going to pay for that.
Whose responsibility would it be?
Your mother's.
Why is that?
You were storing items in your mother's house. She had the opportunity to say to Mr. Fleck's children, do not go down to the basement. They would not have gone down to the basement without her permission. If they hadn't been down there playing, then the property would not have been damaged. And your mother had total control over that.
Even though it was an accident on their behalf, it's not their responsibility?
Absolutely correct.
Okay, I would like to say that at first, Mr. Fleck agreed to pay for the damages upon getting an estimate, and he even listed me as a debt on claiming bankruptcy.
Did you declare bankruptcy, sir?
I'm in the process now, ma'am, yes.
How much did Mr. Mason tell you that the damage was to his property?
The first figure I received was $250.
When did you receive that figure?
Say 2 weeks after this incident occurred.
Did you tell him that you would pay the $250?
No, ma'am. I said I would talk to my children.
Then why did you list him as a creditor?
I was told to do so by my attorneys.
You mean any possible person that you might owe money to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you originally tell Mr. Fleck, Mr. Mason, that the damage was $250?
Yeah, I called around to get
The
estimates.
answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Then why are you suing him for $877.46?
Because once I went to the dealer and got the estimates, that's what they came back as. That was my estimate at first. Me, not the dealer.
Did you tell that to Mr. Fleck?
I did. That was just some online researching that I did.
I don't think he owes you anything. And he says he didn't agree to pay you. He said he just listed you in his bankruptcy because in the event that you got a judgment against him, he wanted to be covered. Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Any of your children touch the motorcycle?
No, ma'am.
Were you playing in a big cardboard box?
I was.
That's what happens when kids play.
So they're not responsible for their damages?
Your mother gave them permission to go downstairs, sir. Your mother gave them permission to go downstairs. And if what happened down there was an accident, it should have been covered by your homeowner's insurance if you had it. Do you have homeowner's insurance?
No, ma'am.
Should have. Or else your mother's going to fix it. She should not have let Mr. Fleck's children go downstairs if your property was downstairs and she knew it was valuable. You got it? Goodbye.
Hello guys, Assalamualaikum. How are you? I hope so you all are fine. Congratulations guys, we have achieved 1 new subscriber, and alhamdulillah for everything guys. Thanks you for your support, and Allah ka shukr, alhamdulillah guys. I have a motivational video for you guys. Dekho guys, just listen. When I have some extra money from my my budget, out of budget, I think so my monthly budget minimum 25,000 and maximum 35, yeah, or 40,000. 40,000 last my budget for a month. But if I have some extra money, 60,000, for example 60,000 outside payment jo who 20,000, I also want what I want. Every people want best, every poor people and middle class people wants. I can eat something, I can buy something, but why? Because I am hungry. We are hungry guys, we are hungry. We want make money, okay, but we don't want to take any risk. So guys, first thing is that when you take risk, you will be successful one day. If you have extra money you have, you are already a billionaire son. So I have an opportunity for you guys. I have a motivational video for you, motivational talking for you guys. Just invest your money, not yourself. Invest your money, and money makes you money. Money makes you more money, and one day you will be billionaire. If you are millionaire now, you are billionaire. And when you take risk, we are, because we are middle class, we belong to a middle class family, okay? So when you are billionaire, guys, people says, oh wow, it's my cousin, it's my parent, it's my father, it's my mother, it's my brother, it's my friend, anything else. People are very greedy now a time. In this time people are very greedy, guys. And people, honestly, people are not good today. I faced many problems, but alhamdulillah, 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 guys, I have some difficult problems. I can't show you, but guys, pray for me. Thanks for watching. Guys, subscribe and share, and Allah Hafiz.